All right, I think there we go. I think we're live, folks. There's always a syncing issue with the stream. Let me know if you can hear me. And everything looks good. Welcome. George Wachowski says, good to see you on Grand Theft World Tuesday night. Yeah, I was listening. That movie, Defamation, he was playing. I saw that movie over 10 years ago. I think. Yeah. But it was good to see him stream that because that's a big eye opener. Hey, folks. Hey, Mountain Wizard, what's up, buddy? We chatted last night. Did my second Twitter space last night with Wogpog, and it was great. We were talking about off-grid stuff and kind of getting into the details of some of it, which is kind of fun to do from time to time. Hey, Brandon from Tennessee. Nice. Let's just make sure it's ready to go. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so how's everybody doing? How's your day? Let me know how your day was. I had a glorious day. What a fall we're having. Just a blessing. Just an absolute blessing. And I worked in the sun all day. There's no snow yet. I got tons of shit done. Started some more work with my machine right out of here, actually. I'm connecting this in front of my greenhouse to the front of the house now and have landscaping, just bringing bulk material in that I have on site. It's all the rubble from my house excavation. So I'm just queuing that up with my Mini X, and then the skids. I just queue up piles, and then I jump in the skid steer and grab those big bucket at a time, and drive it up here, drop it down, push it. Skid steers are fantastic machines. I'm probably gonna get rid of my Mini X soon because I'll be mostly done with it, and I could use the money. I could use the money. The spending on this project, let me tell you, it is not for the faint of heart. So I need to take a break from building. And winter seems like a great time to do it. It's time to relax a little bit more, ski, snowboard, enjoy time by the fire, enjoy family, enjoy the bounty of the harvest season. And I'm really looking forward to that. So here we are, 172 folks. Smash the like if you guys are stoked for tonight's stream. So I've been doing a stream every Thursday of this month, and I'll be doing another one next couple weeks as well, the 23rd and the 30th at this time, 6 p.m. Seems to work well for us, and seems to work well for some of you guys, because people are coming out for them, and people are telling me that they're stoked about these evening streams. And I am too, because to be honest, it's with the amount we have to do up on this homestead, my days are just, if I can't work on the homestead, it's nobody else is doing that work. So so I got to do it. I don't have people doing everything for me up here. So I got people on the construction, but I do most of everything else myself. I'm just going to riff for a little bit and let people trickle in, say hello. I'll kind of chat with you guys a bit in the stream. I'm going to tonight talk about where I think the economy is heading, particularly in Canada. And I think it's going to be a bloodbath. And I don't use that term to just be sensationalist. I'm looking at the numbers and I'm doing some basic math, and call it a mathematical conclusion looks to be on the way for me. Mike Murphy, thanks in advance for sharing. Hey, buddy, thank you. Thanks for the support, man. No, I really appreciate people's support. And we've actually had some stuff lately. I won't get into any details of it, but some stuff in our personal life that has been a challenge and has presented a new set of challenges for us. And thinking on your feet and yeah, preparing. I had a brief look at the chats, the call them super chats in the from the field, and I'm not going to go into the question now, but I saw brother Manoj here says, what was it about hyperinflation? Was it Manoj or is it Daniel? Anyways, so yeah, Manoj preparing for hyper deflation. Yeah, so we'll get into that, but yeah, so we've had some challenges in our life, and sometimes a challenge brings out things that you never saw. One thing I had a guy come up here today, I got rid of 2 of these shipping containers. We'd been renting them for years, and we emptied them out, so we didn't need them anymore. So get them out of here before the snow. Guy comes and picks them up. Just such a pleasant guy, just so pleasant. And I was bullshitting with this guy, and he's telling me about his life, and I'm just sitting there thinking, man, in my life, I only interact with good people. Like, and I said that to my wife over lunch. I love people. I love people. Any kind of person that I get in a conversation with, I pretty much always like them. I rarely dislike people. And there are situations, no doubt, but that you get into, that I've been into. But by and large, the people I interact with in my life, especially in my physical life, my day-to-day life, are all really good people, and I love most people, and I try to pay it forward in a lot of ways. I try to just really show people generosity and kind of set a benchmark for expecting the best from people, and it really comes back. We had some stuff happen, and I really had some people come out and kind of show up for me, and it's really special when people show up for you. Because my wife and I were kind of talking about it over lunch today, about how we have this little hot tub. Well, it's not a hot tub, it's a steel feeding trough. It's those 6 foot wide ones, and they're about 30 inches deep, and they're about 24 inches wide. And my whole family, we fill it up with hot water. We can just pipe hot water right out of our cabin, right through the on-demand boiler. We fill it up, and we have hot tubs, and it's just lovely. And we had this glorious day up here. So we had this tub session in the early morning, not early morning, actually mid-morning. But we had this frost on the ground here that just didn't go away, but it was sunny all day, but maybe just -1, but just beautiful. And we're sitting there in the tub, just in this glorious moment. And I was just talking to her about how, this guy was just such a lovely person, such a lovely individual. And she's like, yeah, you always have stories like that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Everybody I talk to, I like, for the most part. In social media land, in that world, that's a different story. That's not real life. It's a shred of real life, but it's not real life. But we were talking about how, and just kind of talking about some of these people that really came up for me, and really just, goodwill. When you put a lot of goodwill out into the world, it comes back to you. And the more you put out for longer, the faster it comes back to you. And I want to share this analogy. We're going to talk about some kind of scary shit tonight as far as the economy is concerned, but I want to start with just sharing the gratitude and abundance and joy that we experience in our life. And I think it's important to set that as a foundation or a framework, if I'm going to put one out there, of things that could seem bad. And the news and the media and pundits on social media always want to just go, bah, 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 the world's falling to shit. It's all bad. But in my life, and I think this will be valuable for people if you spend time with people, is that my wife she kind of said to me, yeah, that you always have these stories, every time you go and have to do something with somebody, or you got the story about how this guy is so great and interesting. And I said, it's kind of interesting, because you can almost imagine Goodwill, call it social capital, social equity, relationships, and things like that. Um, I always like these universals that you can apply to principles that you observe in nature, and then also take those into somewhat of an esoteric realm, but not esoteric, maybe just metaphoric. Um, but you know how if you take a balloon and you go to blow up the balloon, and at first it's really hard to blow it up. It's hard to get anywhere with it. It takes a while. And then when you break through that little first part of it, and water pressure and pressure in general, air pressure functions in this very same way. And so you get past that first bit, and then it really expands. And then there's a period where it all feels the same for a period of time. You're kind of blowing air into it. And then it gets to the point where it's, call it 85% full. It's at its almost max capacity. And then for that period of time, it gets hard to blow air into it again. And then you get it to that last little bit, and then you close it up. And then, so imagine what you just blew in there is goodwill. And when you're starting out in the world, or if you're starting from a place where you don't have a lot of goodwill out there, you don't have a lot of social equity out there, you don't have a lot of, good relationships over time with people. It's hard to start those up, because it's like the cliche of starting on, one foot in front of the other. The first step is the hardest to make. But then you get going, you get some momentum, and then there's that easy period, and you just put goodwill out there. You get goodwill out there, and then you start to notice it's coming back to you a little bit. And then you go through this time when perhaps in your life you have the capacity or ability and desire to put a lot of goodwill out there. And to be totally I'm talking about my experience here. So this is what I've experienced. Have the capacity to put goodwill out there. People to take the time to do live streams like this, or take the time to do a good thing for somebody. That when you go and you put that out there, and that almost represents the cascade, or the pinnacle of the energy it takes to put goodwill out there, because it's not easy to put goodwill out there all the time. I think it's a common trap. It's easy for us to get caught up in the negativity, or get caught up in the fear, or whatever. But so almost imagine it. So you got this balloon that's full, and now you go to let the air out. It comes out really quick. Like it's because it's at its peak pressure. And I think I've discovered that I've put so much goodwill out there for people for so long that at a time that I needed it, it came crazy fast. And it's just a blessing. And I had such a blessed day today. And I want to just share this with you. Maybe it's inspiration, maybe it's words of comfort. But I just had this day that was just so blessed. It was just unbelievably beautiful outside. It was stunning, because we woke up. I did a drone shot of it, and I'll put it in a video coming soon. But we had this clear night, and it's been 2 weeks of cloud. I've been running my generator a couple times a week, 3 times a week even. No sun for the last 2 weeks. And we get this day, and now it's really starting to clear. And it's just woke up with this frost everywhere, but the sun was beaming. I got 100 kilowatt hours of solar today. And it was just lovely to be outside all day and work. And up here, it's really special because the sun goes a lot lower, obviously, in the winter as it does in the Northern Hemisphere. But on our southeastern facing ridge, it means we get more direct light on our land because it's all sloping down. And so your skin takes it all in. But I just had this such blessed day. And it kind of inspired me. We do a prayer before dinner, as many families do. We have a I'm not going to do it. I'll get too emotional, actually. Tendency to get emotional when I feel huge amounts of inspiration. And so I don't want to get all teary-eyed, but it inspired me to kind of rewrite this prayer that we do for dinner. And it was really lovely. And my family and I got to share that. My wife made a really lovely shepherd's pie, as she did last week as well. And I think it was before the stream, I had a shepherd's pie too. So I'm very nice comfort food in me. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And so again, when I talk about things that I'm going to talk about, I take it for what it's worth. The world is full of good and full of opportunity. But there are people afoot who are willing to sacrifice many people for their profit. And that's what looks like it's about to happen in the Canadian real estate market. And I want to just pull some stuff. Where is it here? I'm looking at my Twitter. If you guys don't follow me on Twitter, I'm posting so much gravy on here, and I'm really enjoying writing because I found a new way to use Twitter where you can actually write. You're still somewhat limited by the 100 or 280 characters, which actually I find is sort of a liberating constraint. Actually, it's kind of like jamming on something modal. If you want to improvise with some people and you want to have some fun right away with the song, but you don't want to make it too complicated so people can't sit in easily, is just jam on one chord, to vamp, and I kind of find Twitter is like that with the 280 characters. It's kind of neat, but I found a way that you could write by just replying and then making sure your first paragraph, if you write a long body, is 280 characters, and then just leave enough spaces in it so that it goes show more, and then they'll get value out of reading just that first paragraph. But then if you expand it, you get more. I find it's a really interesting, neat challenge when it comes to writing, and I'm quite enjoying it. But I shared some stuff here. I'm just going to scroll up to it. And here, I'll keep the chat open here. Hey, folks. That and there was some folks that had some really good comments in here. Here it is. So let me just share my screen because there's some good comments in here. So let's share this screen. So I'm referencing here. Yeah, you can see my screen. So I said in the tweet, looks like I sound a bit arrogant here. I must admit, but looks like I might have been bang on about the year of Canadian real estate collapse. 2019 plus 5 years is 2024. So if you're not familiar with the way the Canada mortgage scam works, mortgages are scam, period, but the Canadian mortgage system is more of a scam because you have to negotiate the interest rate every 5 years, even though the bank never had any of the assets that was put up. It was all you. And they fractionally lended your money back to you. And so anyways, Canada's, if you bought a house in 2019, and here's this little factoid that I found online by just Googling it, actually. Since 2017, the homeownership rate in Canada has fluctuated. And in 2019, it peaked at approximately 68.6%. Why is that? It's because a shitload of people, more than ever before, bought homes to live in, not homes for investment, not homes for whatever. And if you want to reference it, you can go, they get to it in this statistics website here. That's where this quote gets pulled. And the link's there on my Twitter. But why this is so crazy, and we've all had, at least I've had the sense for months now that there's just something off about the economy, and I'm feeling it in my local area. I'm not even talking about, because it's an endless doom scroll on Twitter. So it's hard to actually gauge how things are with just news, in my opinion. When I see things with my own eyes, that's when I start to really pay attention. But I've been really observing a lot of people, even I know in my world, are struggling. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that I felt a little bit of that myself. And so, we run this program every week called the Homestead Accelerator. And tonight or tomorrow, I'll be doing the property assessments that we do for that. We publish these 10 properties that are, homestead real estate all around North America. And I've been just noticing for a while, Canadian real estate. And I always, even outside of the Homestead Accelerator, I always look at Canadian real estate all the time on a weekly basis. I look at what's going on around me. Homestead real estate, I don't care about commercial stuff, but they all relate. Is this that there was a lot of people recently who are really significantly lowering the price of their homes. And it's people that are doing it now are ahead of the curve. They're a little bit ahead of the curve, maybe I don't know, 4 to 6 months ahead of the curve. But if the majority of Canadians that own single family homes that they live in bought in 2019, that means that they bought at the peak of the market. Okay. So actually, oh yeah, there was some comments in here. That's what I was going to share. Where are they? There's a guy that had a comment that was really sweet. Where did he put that? Anyways, yeah, maybe it's in here. If you bought in 2019, you bought at the peak of the housing market. I'm just going to just search one thing if I can pull up a stat. Price long term. BC, yeah. House price index. Here we go. Yeah, okay. And then let's go Canadian interest rate cycle. Canadian interest rate term. Yeah. Here we are. Where's the 40-year? Yeah, okay. So a couple charts here. We're gonna just geek out for a minute. This isn't normally what I do, but it is uh relevant to what the point I'm trying to illustrate here. So you can see, is there any lag in the stream? Let me know in the chat if there's any lag in the stream. So here we go. This is the Canadian affordability in Canada. So this is kind of just showing you where the prices of homes went. And so if you bought in 2019, you bought around here. You bought way up here. And that one's not even that up to date. It was this one better? Yeah. So 2020 to 2022, look at this run up of prices in homes. At the same time, you bought at the interest rates that were very low. So what is this? Yeah, okay. January 2020 even went lower actually. So there's, this could go on another year, but look at how low it is still though. If you bought in 2019, and you know what? My home in Kelowna that we sold, I renegotiated and did my 5-year. Thankfully, I ended my 5-year renewal, or started a new 5-year renewal in 2019. And that's when I locked in for 1.9%, 1.97% to be exact. And then we sold the year later. So I had to pay a penalty to get out of that mortgage, but whatever, it wasn't a big deal. All worth it in the long run. But I was one of those people that got into that interest rate. And so if I would have kept that home up until this point, I would be going to renew in 2024 at, where are we right now? Well, this is inflation, and this is the game of inflation, cat and mouse of inflation versus lending rates. But the lending rates are just peaking. And right now in the US, I think they're 8%. And in Canada, it's about 6.5%. So just do the math. You had a mortgage, you had a $1.5 million property or home on, call it 2%. That approximately translates to be about a $2,000 a month. Actually, no, not at that price. But let me just do some basic math so we don't get too caught up in it. If you have a mortgage right now, it's about $2,000 a month, and you got that mortgage in 2019, and that's a very common mortgage that a lot of people were getting for these overly valued homes. When you go to renew and the interest rate is triple or more, your mortgage payment is at least double or triple. I'm already hearing stories of people that are folding because the mortgage payment is triple. So the thing that's so criminal about it in a way is that if you understand how a mortgage works, and if you don't, I would highly encourage you to just look it up. It's all on the internet, and it's called fractional reserve lending, because the bank only has to hold a fraction of its reserve. And the reserve is just nothing that the government prints anyways, or the central bank. But commercial banks can lend out 9 times the money they have. So the minute you go into the bank and deposit $100 into the bank, they now have the ability to take that $100, go into their deposits, their separate deposit, and then they can issue $900 of credit that you pay at interest, right? And so that alone is a scam, because when you do a mortgage, the money you put down is the only money that existed prior to that mortgage. Okay. So if you don't know this, you should really know this, because it's important to understand how things work, but it's also important to illustrate how criminal what's about to happen in Canada is. And I'll kind of drill into that a bit more. But so you wanted to buy that $800,000 house, and it required at least 10% down. If it was your first home in Canada, you can get it at 10% down, and then it'll be guaranteed under the CMHC, the Canadian Housing Mortgage Corporation, or Canada Guarantee, or one of these other Bush League insurance companies. But that's how you get it. And they go, oh, you're a high risk customer, but they'll still give it to you. And so you want an $800,000 home, you got to put down 10%. So you have to come up with $80,000 in cash. So you somehow make it happen. You get that 80. Some people even take out HELOCs, home equity lines of credit, to get that 80,000 to buy a second property. And the chain of how people are going to get so hosed in this is just going to be insane. So you go and you put down that 80 grand, and then you say to the bank, I want to buy this house. And they go, okay, we can buy that house for you. You give them the 80 grand. They immediately take the 80 grand on deposit and loan back 9 times the money to give you the money that only you created. They give you the money to sign your ass. You're the asset. You're the ass. It's your ass. You sign that, and then they give you money that you made. And then they ask you to pay interest. And if you're lucky enough to be in the United States, you got that term signed on for 30 years. And so you will survive, because I think this one is going to have a chain reaction, as Lehman Brothers did in 2008. So they give you the money, you get the house, you sign up to that interest rate, and then in 5 years they bankrupt you because you're now paying triple on money that you made in the first place. So, don't expect the government or the banks to come in and say, oh, we're going to forgive the debt. Well, they might actually. And that's the real icing on the cake. That's the real gravy. That's where it's going to get real hairy. But basically, if you just look at the numbers, and I showed you them, 68.9% of the homes, or how does it read? Let me cite it again, just so I don't mince my words. The homeownership rate in Canada has fluctuated, and in 2019 it peaked at 68.6%. So that was the highest that the homeownership rate meant was. That means the most amount of mortgages would have went out at that time. I guess in Canadian history, it said it peaked. So I don't know, is it a 20-year cycle they're talking about? I don't know what it is. So you could look deeper into that. But if Canadian mortgages renew every 5 years, it's a mathematical certainty that in 2024, there is going to be an absolute real estate apocalypse in Canada. It's just going to be an absolute millions. I mean, how many people own homes in Canada? There's 30, maybe 35 million people in Canada now. It's definitely going to be millions of people are going to lose their homes for nothing, for a total scam that the bank has. There's no reason to charge you more interest. There's no reason. They don't need the money. You made the money. That money is costing them nothing. But this is where this tips everything off, is that money's gone. And the thing you signed to is also gone, and it also goes onto a market and gets traded, and it goes into all kinds of bundles of hedge funds and international banks all over the world. Canadian real estate is bundled in all of these funds all over the world. And when that asset just goes tits up, it's going to have potentially, in my opinion, a significant ripple effect. And I think what will most likely happen is that they might be able to kick the can down on this absolute shit show it's going to be to pass the election in the US, because the US election is a year, I think it's a year before the Canadian election. So the Canadian election will have nothing to do with it. This will happen before that election. I'm certain. But it could have this chain reaction event in the United States. It's another one of these things to just tip the scale further towards the madness that it's going to be. So people are going to be scrambling to sell their homes the closer we get to, when was the date? I'd love to know the date. I don't know it. I could probably find it. But what was the date where, say, the most amount of mortgages were signed, and then anything close to that date is going to be haywire, but then the thing that will be interesting is if people start to get scared, then that can also tip it off as well, because the economy ultimately is it's either fear or greed. I think there's a really good index, the fear and greed index of the economy, and that's really what it comes down to. Philip says 9x at minimum, Curtis. The sky is limit. They loan out. Well, that's what's on the record, at least as far as if you read the banking lending policies in the US. It's in the Federal Reserve stuff. But yeah, 9x or whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, they have nothing, but they have the authority to lend out money at interest. So it's one thing to lend it out to you and not charge you much for it, but you still have to pay it back, and they never made it in the first place. It's one thing to do that, but it's another thing to just charge interest and then jack the interest rate all of a sudden for feelings. There's no justification for it. It's you talk to some banker who doesn't really get, bankers don't even know about fractional reserve lending. You talk to the average bank teller, they have no idea. They don't know how any of this shit works. And so, yeah, people are saying 15-minute cities, so, what this is going to do, in my opinion, is it's the problem reaction solution Hegelian dialectic. And they're going to run these all over. And Australia might be, its fate might be the same as the Canadians in time too, because interest rates were low at the same time in 2019 as they were in Australia. And they have the same scheme, the 5-year scheme. So if you bought really cheap, expecting that you would have that payment in perpetuity, you are in for a rude awakening. And all these people think that they'll probably disbelief for a period of time, because people just rush to get their houses listed, probably thinking they'll sell quick because, Canadian real estate's so strong and there's so many buyers and everybody's got money. But no, that money's coming home to roost. During the COVID thing, they pumped massive amounts of money. It was it's a pump and dump. This is a pump and dump. They pumped you up and they're going to dump you. And so they pumped you up, got you all excited about doing all kinds of stuff, buying a new home, what have you. And they're going to pull the reins back, and it's going to be an absolute shit show. And I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't going to get burned in it in some way or another, because I probably will. I think everybody could potentially. Fortunately, I don't have a mortgage here. So that's my one thing that I'm absolutely grateful for, is that, if the shit hit the fan, I can get rid of things. I can get rid of things that are liquid. But we don't own any money on this property. So at the very least, the last 3 years of my work, I've been able to really establish our food systems, our water systems, and our power systems. And sure, I'd like to be living in my home, the Shangri-La, but I might not for a little while longer, and that's okay. And because the other things that I front loaded with were more important. And so, yeah, we're blessed to be in that position. But I'm not excited to hear from people who are going to be caught up in this. And so I would say to you, if you have a house on the market right now, or a property or whatever in Canada, I'm talking about Canada because the US is a different animal right now. And I might talk about that a bit too, because there's a lot of things I'm observing there. But if you're trying to sell something right now and you're holding on to a price from even 8 months ago, and you haven't lowered it yet, you probably have lowered it already. But I think the way people should price things in a time like this is price them to sell fast, and structure your outcome on this fundamental principle that I've had to tell a lot of people, and even myself too, in some ways, because I'm selling some shit that I want to get rid of, that I don't need. And so price it so that what was I trying to say? It's better to make less money than to make money. It's better to make less money than make no money. Because when you go to sell that thing, when everybody else is selling that thing, it's like tulip mania in the Netherlands. If you don't know the story of tulip mania, I won't bother telling it, but just Google it. That nobody wants the thing, and there's no money to buy it anyways. And so it's yeah, if you're trying to move an asset right now, price it to sell, and make less money. Way better to make no money, or to be stuck with a thing that nobody wants. So that's what I say. Let's look at some of your guys' questions. Holy crap. Hey, like the stream if you guys are jamming on the stream. We got 466 people in here. This is the most well-attended live stream I've had in a while. Let's smash the like button. Let's get this up to like 800 or 1,000. Let's see if I can have a big live stream. It's been a while, but yeah, what are you guys thinking? What are you guys tell me in the chat? Are you guys, what are you seeing in your local economy? Because I'll tell you what, I've been observing these things for a while, and so actually I have a tendency I'm the kind of guy that reaches out, and I call old friends, or call mentors and stuff like that. And I've done that in the last couple weeks. Had a lot of heart-to-hearts with mentors and friends of mine that I would consider high level, heavy operators, people, men, it's all men, who just get massive amounts of things done and have accomplished huge things. And had a number of conversations. One of these mentors in my life goes back 30 years. One was my dad's best friend. Was sort of kind of been a financial mentor for me for many years. And I said, what do you think the first quarter of 2024 looks like? And he says, well, I think, actually, the thing he said that was kind of funny is, well, we're going through the tail end of Trudeau 2.0, just like we did 20 years ago or more with Trudeau 1.0. And he's correct. At the same time, it's not the whole story, because the politics of it all is really a bunch of BS. But so actually, it was following somebody on Twitter, and they had this interesting thing that made me realize. They said that most of these globalist policies actually came from conservatives in Canada. And he's absolutely correct. Some of the most egregious Canadian globalist policies came from conservatives. I'll give you a few examples here. One was a major turning point for globalism in Canada was NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. That was brought in under Brian Mulroney, a conservative government. And then another egregious one that came in many years later under Stephen Harper was the Foreign Investment Protection Act. And if you've never heard of the Foreign Investment Protection Act, you'll actually have a hard time finding information about it because they keep changing the name of it. Really sneaky. But you could go back in the news cycle. It was 2014. It was 2014. I forget where that was in Stephen Harper's term, but they brought in in FIPA, they were calling it. And you can read CBC news articles, CTV, Global, all the mainstream media in Canada was talking about this, and they give conservatives a harder time, as they do. But maybe it's so that it allows the conservatives to get away with more, because the Foreign Investment Protection Act is absolutely insane. I think actually, if you go on my Liberty on the Land podcast, I think it was episode 13 I did on it. I think I showed it. But it's hard to find it. They keep changing the name. It's really sneaky. But there was an article in there, and I believe it was Article 33, which is, has a special ring to it in the truth community, but it was Article 33. And it talks about total indemnity for China. And they talk about how they have hush orders in the media. They have legal indemnity to do all kinds of environmental crap with mining, and they can get away with more than Canadian corporations could. And they gave them permission to station military in the country. And that's on the record. Look it up, the Foreign Investment Protection Act, or go to my video. I should have, I didn't prepare for this stream. I just kind of knew I wanted to riff on this thing. And I didn't know I'd talk about this, but if you go in that Liberty on the Land, I did it on YouTube too. I think it's off my YouTube channel. I think it was taken down, but I show it. And conservatives. So the point I'm trying to make is I'm not playing this game of left-right politics. It's all bullshit. But all these, social media influencers who think Pierre Poilievre is going to save the day in Canada, they're delusional. And it's the same for Maxime Bernier, though I like Maxime Bernier. He seems like an all right guy. I met him. I actually did a YouTube video with him a number of years ago in Kelowna. And I think he has good intentions. Well, who knows if I know anything about his intentions? Who cares a shit? But he seems to have good intentions, at least by the rhetoric. That's not going to do anything, because the things that Canadian, it's just like the issue isn't the issue. The issue is never the issue. It's as a Saul Alinsky saying, is that the issue is never the issue. It's always revolution. And so the issue doesn't matter, right? As far as the New World Order trying to hammer in the technocratic agenda in all of its glory with the universal basic income, which is going to be a product of this Canadian real estate meltdown, in my opinion, is going to be the offer is that we'll let you stay in your homes, but you won't own them. You'll rent them from us, and we'll give you UBI, and you have to just be a good little boy and don't talk any shit about the Canadian government. Yeah, where the hell was I going with all that? What are you guys saying in the chat? But yeah, conservatives are it's the futility of politics right now is so I just don't know why anybody spends any time on it, because there's going to be no solution from it, because the issues that they talk about, this is the point I was trying to make when I said the issue is not the issue on the left, how the New World Order hammer us. On the flip side of it, what people see as remedy in politics is the issue isn't the issue, is the issues that everybody's talking today. So you follow all the, I stopped following most of them, but I had for up until they flipped the switch on the Israel-Palestine sleeper cells. I was following a lot of these Canadian alternative conservative figures. And like even that guy Aaron Gunn, who made that really good documentary about Vancouver is dying, and he's made some good content. He's kind of jumped on this whole Israel bandwagon thing, but you just see them going and talking about they're pumping Pierre Polyev and all this, and it's like they're not talking. These politicians aren't talking about a single issue that has any really relevance in actually improving your life. Nothing. Drag queen story time and all the culture war stuff. The culture war stuff's a distraction. The cultural war stuff is a distraction for what's coming. Is that they want you obsessing about all the scraps they throw you into the pig pen of just, oh, here, go wag the dog on this thing. Oh, wag the dog on this thing. Even this Israel-Palestine thing is a wag the dog thing. Yeah, it's horrible that Palestinians have been basically genocided since the inception of Israel. And now it's just more scaled up because their population's exploding, and Israel probably just wants to get rid of them because there's too many of them. And that's essentially what they have been doing for almost 100 years. But needless to say, that issue is still just a waste of time issue because it's not going to change anything in your life. It's not a waste of time issue for the people that are affected by it. And perhaps, people calling it out is what's going to stop it. I doubt it. I think they're just going to throw Israel under the bus. The stuff that goes on in Palestine is not good for Israel. It's not good for the Israeli individual. I've known dozens of Israelis. I've consulted for a lot of Israelis, and none of them that I've ever talked to when it's come up are happy about the way Palestinians are treated. None of them. Not to say that there aren't lots that are, but the point is nobody's into that shit. It's terrible. But that issue is being used as a distraction for you in the West, in North America, the US, most of Western Europe, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. That issue is just being used to just drive a wedge between you and other people around you so that you're spending time going, instead of preparing for what's going to make life very difficult. COVID was a gravy train, in my opinion, as to where this is going to go. And all of this divide stuff that was in COVID, the woke, the mask, the BLM, the January 6th, the trucker convoy, all the stuff, the drag queen story time, all of it is a distraction so that you're not paying attention to, holy shit, our house is coming up for renewal next year. And right now we're paying $2,000 a month. And if interest rates keep going the way they're going and don't go back down significantly, we're going to be paying 2 to 3 times more than we are now. Can the average Canadian afford that? The average Canadian is carrying $30,000 of consumer debt on a credit card at 18% interest. That's the average Canadian. And do you think they're going to afford that? No. So they're going to be leveraged to the hilt. And it's going to be, it's going to be crazy. Can the likes be 300, please? Media Bear's in the house. Yo, 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 Media Bear. Dr. Clown. Dr. Clown. What are you guys saying? Here in Central Virginia, house prices have remained high despite the high interest rate due to low inventory. Well, the good thing about the States is that people can hold strong for longer because, well, one, your housing affordability chart doesn't look much like the Canadian affordability chart. It does in some states like California, New York, or parts of New York, or Jersey, or Florida's really expensive now. Idaho's expensive. Washington's really expensive. BC, Canada's ridiculous expensive. So, but at least in the States, you can hold strong because you can, you're locked in for 30 years. Who cares? put more on the mortgage to pay it off quicker. A trick I used to do with my mortgage to just hammer down the principal and then reduce the payment, but reduce the payment from principal, not interest. So not spreading the payment out more. But there's a trick we had with the 5-year mortgages. If you're smart with the way you manage your home, this is what a lot of people do, is if you have, say, certain, depends on the details of your mortgage, but you're allowed to put lump sums down on your mortgage up to a certain amount per year, and that goes directly to principal. Okay. And then it recalculates your whole mortgage, because so I was able to put down, I think it was 20 or 40 grand at a time. And 1 year, because my mortgage payment started higher, but in a 2-week period from the last calendar year to the second calendar year, I exploited the max amount. Right. So December 23rd or whatever the last banking day is before Christmas, boom, put down your 20 grand or your 40 grand. I think it might have been 40 grand for me. Put that down. And then 2 weeks later, after Christmas, put it down again. So I doubled. I put down in a short period of time, double what I could have prior if I would have done it earlier in the year. And then it just completely hammered my principal, but also really lowered my interest payment. So it was a kind of a front loading way of taking down your mortgage. I think you can do the same in the US. Hey, Media Bear, thanks for the shout out. Follow me on Twitter, guys. Are you guys on? Who's on Twitter? I really like Twitter. And I'm trying to just do on Twitter what I do in the real world going forward. I've had some, had the odd unsavory back and forth with a person or two. But I'm trying to do on Twitter what I do in the real world is just be nice and just put out goodwill and really only say good things and try to not say bad things about anybody. Though sometimes it's hard to not, but that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And so follow me on there at Off Grid Stone. And yeah. What else are you guys saying? So I want to know tell me in the chat what you guys are feeling in the economy. I think some of you still are here. So what Western Montana price is still high. Could sell my house for 30% more than I bought it for 2 years ago. Montana is high. We have a very difficult time finding good properties in Montana. The climate's challenging in Montana, though. You can find places that aren't in the super exposed climate, little pockets of vegetation and stuff, but by and large, it's pretty hard to find. Pablo says, WTF, Canadian debt, they should pay people that are living in the frozen hellhole. Well, funny you say that, because they actually do. They literally do. Not to live where most Canadians live, which is 100 miles from the US border. So like 90-something% of Canadians live right by the US border. So Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, Wisconsin, all across the US, most Canadians live just right above there. And so those Canadians don't get paid to live in the frozen hellhole, because it's not a frozen hellhole. It's not much different. It's the same as all those places I mentioned in the United States, which gets winters, but it's not, we still get beautiful summers and springs and falls. But Canada does pay people to live in the north. So if you want to move to Yukon, or Nunavut or Northwest Territories, they pay you. They pay you something like $2,000 a month. It's been going on forever. They've had that welfare program forever. But the thing is, it's so expensive up there because there's no food production up there. Everything has to be trucked in. That it's ahead of shitty iceberg lettuce from the conventional grocery store up there is like $10. Not kidding you. And so it's expensive to live up there. So that's how they, I guess, justify it. But to me, it just means don't live up there. Why would you live up there? It's some people do. And on the temperate side, Alaska is a lot more livable than Yukon. because those coastal regions in Alaska are actually temperate. I think they're CFDs. Oh no, CF. Yeah, they're cold temperate climates. So they can have a sort of mild, wet winter, and a warm summer, which to me, I want hot summer. I don't like mild summers. As I've never liked coastal climates. So a Mindheart says, you're wrong about Israel and so-called Palestine. I forgive you. You're more than make up for it. Well, tell me how I'm wrong. I want to know what am I wrong about? And let me just reiterate my position. I'm not saying that Hamas had done terrorism, though it isn't believable. And I'll tell you why. Because Israel has the Iron Dome. Israel has the most advanced and decked out military than any military in the world. And so to say these lone terrorists from a country that isn't a country can just all of a sudden penetrate their defenses, it's kind of like saying, well, we don't know how Epstein died because his camera turned off right before he hung himself, right? It's like that. So you tell me what I'm wrong about. Am I wrong about the Rothschilds creating the Balfour Declaration and using the British Empire to basically go in and seize the property of Palestinians? Am I wrong about that? Like, what am I wrong about? I'll watch in the chat. You tell me how I'm wrong. Because I care about what you're saying. I appreciate the fact that you said I'm wrong about Israel, but then you said I make up for it because in other areas. I appreciate that. And so I'm not taking what you're saying personally. I'm not offended. If I'm wrong, I want to know why I'm wrong, because I've done my research on that issue for 20 years. And I've known, I did a whole, I'm not doing this whole spiel again. I did it all last stream, but yeah. Media Bear says, smash the like, folks. But I want to know how I'm wrong. Either way, I'll move on. But I'm curious what other people are saying about what conditions are like in their area. Hamas is funded by Israel. Yes, it's a fact. In the 1970s, I forget the date exactly, but it was in the 70s, Israel created Hamas. They created all these boogeymen because they need a boogeyman, because what they've done to Palestine for so long is so egregious and such an act of slow grinding genocide that they need to have a boogeyman. Otherwise, the world would just unite behind Palestine and say, there's no way you can do this to these people. You just can't do this. You can't just put people in an open air prison and have them on lockdown and patrol areas. I mean, it's insane. It's rubble. And there's no country. To suggest that all these terrorist groups are, anyways, I don't want to get into it. I'll probably get this stream turned off. So I didn't want to go into it too much anymore. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter for any of us. Unfortunately, it's sad to say that. It's sad to think that there's so many millions of people out there that just live in a shithole day in and day out under military guard, and you're second class. And even the Palestinians that get allowed into Israel to become Israeli citizens don't get treated very well either. Sure, in some, I'm sure some liberal circles, you go to a party in Israel, there's some cool Palestinians there, and sure, whatever. But just look at the people living in the rubble in the strip, or in the Gaza Strip, or the in the West Bank. It's not a home. It's not a country. It's too complicated for the chat. Well, I appreciate that. A mind with heart, and I appreciate you. And I'm always I'm ready to be wrong about something. I'd like to know, but yeah, you're right. It is difficult to have in this conversation, in this context. And so regardless, I appreciate what you said, and I appreciate you for bringing something that's, contrary to what I'm saying, but do it in goodwill, with goodwill. There's such a lack of goodwill today that, it doesn't take much goodwill to go a long way. And I guess it kind of relates to what I was saying earlier. Urban says deflation incoming, and I agree. And okay, I wanted to talk about that. I'm glad you mentioned that, my friend. Why would there be deflation? Well, the reason there's going to be deflation is because we've had inflation because they printed money, right? And so that just printing money drives up prices and demand, because people just go and spend money, and boom, boom, boom. There's companies manufacturing start turning up because people are buying stuff in COVID. That's what we had. Those supply chain issues kind of discombobulated that in some way, in many ways, actually. But so you have all this money printing, all this excitement about the economy. People are renovating their homes and doing HELOCs, getting home equity lines of credit to fund the renovations, and just taking on massive debt at, rising interest rates, but still not high enough to make people worried. And then when everybody goes to, when the interest rates, when the streams cross, call it values of homes, and because what we had was values of homes peaking, and then we had this 40-year skateboard ramp down of interest rate cycles, of rates, and then now we've got devaluation and interest rates climbing. And so when the streams cross, that's when it's going to be mayhem. But that's when there's going to be this short period of deflation, because, and who knows, by short, I mean, it could be years, because there'll be a bunch of stuff. There'll be a shitload of stuff for sale. It'll be, firstly, some people thinking that they can manage the mortgage payment for a while, even though it's double or triple. So they go to sell off a bunch of just stuff. A lot of people that have lots of toys, like motorbikes and, ATVs and fun stuff, boats and shit like that. Expensive stuff too. People go to sell all that stuff off at the same time. And so all of a sudden there's supply and demand. Now there's a massive supply, but there's not that much demand, because people are trying to sell stuff because they need the money. But then when everybody goes to sell stuff when nobody else needs it, there's nobody to buy it. And so that means it becomes a race to the bottom of lowering prices, of people consistently saying, well, I'll go lower because I'll take a loss, but I'll only take this much of a loss. And then they'll be like, okay, well, I'll take a good loss, but I won't take a a dismemberment, and then it's going to be, no, you'll take the dismemberment, because that's all there is. But I think what will happen in this is that the government will come to the rescue, and they got a plan for you. Klaus Schwab and his boys, they got a plan for you and your family. And that looks like a welfare state where you have to toe the line to get your bread, right? So it isn't just stand in line to get the bread. It's, you can stay in your home, and we'll take it over, and some people won't be able to afford it, because the government's not going to give you a UBI to live in a $2 million home. You'll have to downsize, and they'll have a place for you for that too. They're building condos like crazy, and apartments, stacking them and packing them with these 15-minute cities and this madness that they want to bring upon you. But that kind of real estate is exploding. The construction boom is still a gravy train. And it probably will be for a little while, because they need to build homes for people to live in, because if you're going to be on the social credit score system, they don't want you out on the land chopping firewood where you got no Wi-Fi signal or you got no cell service. They want you in the, stack 'em and pack 'em apartment condo, where you can be monitored and surveilled at every time of the day. And the digital ID is exactly going to do that. And that's what they talk about. The UN talk about that with this digital ID, that it's going to track you, and it's going to monitor all of your purchases, because all your purchases are going to be paid for by the government. They want to make sure that their slave is making the right choices. And that's, eating bugs, being a vegan, and then eating bugs for the most part, and just eating processed food that they can just churn and burn. And it's like that movie. You guys ever see that movie, Snowpiercer? It didn't do very well in Hollywood, but it was pretty crazy, where they grind up cockroaches and feed them to all the peasantry. It's yeah, it's gonna be something else, man. Sounds like there will soon be millions of Canadians heading north who have lost their homes. Oh, like in the States? Maybe, maybe because that could cause a chain reaction if you were a Canadian that had a home in Canada that you rent out or something, and then you live down in the States and have another mortgage down there, but then your mortgage becomes unpayable in Canada for your renters, and they can't afford the rent because you'd have, if the mortgage gets doubled, you have to double the rent, and so the renters can't pay that, and then you got to give up your home in the States or your home in Mexico or whatever too. Absolutely, so it'll it's a good point. It'll bring Canadians home from abroad, all over, because yeah, people who have real estate over the last number of years have had the privilege to be able to travel and do things like that. Yeah, the train movie, Oscar, the Snowpiercer, um, because that's what assets, give you the ability to do. Income producing assets are life changing, and that really is a big part of the American dream in a way, and you get some years behind your belt and some equity, and you got a couple properties, and you're living on the residuals of those properties. It's a good life. It's a good life, but people will be taking a haircut. And yeah, I've been given free advice to a number of friends of mine who are trying to sell properties, and I told them a long time ago to lower their prices. I had some new friends that are selling properties too. I just say the same thing. Lower your price. Lower your price now, where you'll sell it. Yeah, you're not going to make as much money on it, but you'll get something for it now. And yeah, making, where's the line, you have to, the thing you have to appreciate about assets or things that you spend, you can do the same thing with cars, like same with mine. I'll probably get rid of some of my shit too. Did Tesla, get rid of it. Why do I need that car? I don't need that car. If things get so tough, I don't want to be the guy driving that car. I'd rather just be driving a beat up truck, you know? But if you are trying to sell something and you're looking at, the time you spent in it, it's a house. Let's say it's a house you're going to sell. You lived in that house for a long time. You got to appreciate the value of that in and of itself. And this is sort of a way you can justify in a logical way taking a really low price for something. So let's say you wanted to cash out, and you're looking at if you sold the house, you're looking at a $400,000 cash out, which is a modest cash out. A good cash out would be, $500,000 or, 800,000. But, let's say you're going to profit $400,000. You lived in the home for the last 15 years, you paid that mortgage and all that. And you'd like to cash out at 400,000, but if you want 400,000, your asking price is just going to be what everybody else's asking price is right now. You could lower your asking price $150,000 and sell it tomorrow, and then be way in the clear and out of the way. But if you hold on, and it's going to be this thing where people are just holding on, they're holding on and waiting and holding those prices. And then there's going to be some people that there's going to be a chain reaction where your neighbor does it, and then you do it, and then 100 other people do it, and then 1,000,000 people do it. And then everybody's price just hits the floor at the same moment. And so then nobody's getting out. Now you're stuck. Now you're stuck with an asset that you can't pay for, that you are the only one that put the money up for. You did all the work. You improved it. The yard looks nice. The garden's nice. You put a root cellar in, whatever. You did all that stuff and shit. Now they're saying, oh, yeah, sorry about that. That money that you gave us and we created value out of nothing on, yeah, that money now, that's going to cost you 3 times what it cost you when you bought the house. And so, sorry to inform you that you're going to have to give us the keys. And so, could you imagine being, say, 15 years into a mortgage and that happens right now? Because that could happen. Because if you got a new mortgage 15 years ago, you got in fairly cheap too. It might not have been the bottom of 1.97, but it was close. And you can't afford 6.5, 7, 8%. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a shit show. B2 says, Curtis, what are your thoughts on land patents? Just watched Alpha Vedic with Ron Gibson. I'll tell you, I think there's more for it in the US than there is Canada. I think in Canada, it's a complete nothing burger. It's a waste of time. Don't waste your time. Just give you the straight up. That's what I've seen. I've never seen anybody pull anything out of that. I've seen a number of people in the US get burned with that too. But, there might be something there, because the US is their government is very different than Canadian government. And I don't really feel like going on that gravy stream right now because we've done it so much before. I was kind of just keen to look at some of the chats, and you guys can throw me super chats and I'll jump to those too. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of look at some of them. So where was this one here? Curtis, can you explain why the Tesla cannot be in the cold? Well, just because lithium ion batteries can't freeze. Well, no, it can be in the cold. It just drains your battery because the battery has to run a little heat around the battery to keep it from freezing. And I think it has to keep it at 10 degrees Celsius. And so when you park your electric vehicle outside, let's say I've got 100 kilometers of charge, call it, there's 25% of the battery on there, and you leave it out. Right now, it's below freezing outside. The greenhouse is 12 degrees Celsius. It's not bad. No heat. Just holding the radiant heat from the day. And I've got the climate battery running, pumping the heat from the ground that I harvested from the peak of this in the evening. So it's nice in here. But if I were to leave that car outside right now, I would probably drop 5% in the night. So that's another reason why electric vehicles are a total scam. In this, and don't get me wrong, I like electric vehicles. I love the fact, like today, I totally put a ton of power into the car because I had so much solar going. But by and large, this year, I'm just going to not drive that car in the winter so much, and because unless I get sunny days, which at this moment are few and far between, it's not worth it because I don't get the sun, and to pull from the battery, it just sucks the battery dry immediately. So it's not worth it. And so electric vehicles, especially in cold climates, they're just not practical. They wouldn't be practical on the electrical grid, unless, of course, they proposed the smart grid thing, which I think that's what they want. And then there's even more control with that. And I mean, in a way, it could logically make sense. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I'm just saying, as far as electric vehicles are concerned, you have to have them plugged in at night. Like when I lived in Kelowna, I didn't have a heated garage. And so in the wintertime, I have to plug the Tesla in every night. And I just put it on a low trickle charge, but just enough to keep the battery warm. And it's just a waste of energy. It's a waste of electricity. So what I do now is I have a garage that's heated, and I've got a wood fire going in there right now, actually. And I'm actually blowing. So I am actually heating this kind of. I'm blowing some of that heat from the garage, from the wood stove into here. I don't know if it's having that much of an effect. The climate battery is probably having more of an effect, but that's why, because they just, anyway, so the Teslas, they die in the cold. And that's why I like electric vehicles, but this whole idea that people are going to get onto electric vehicles is delusional. It'll crash the energy grid. And maybe they'll say, well, then you can plug your car and then that can decentralize the energy grid. And that's kind of a neat idea in principle. I'd like to do it here. It'd be cool if I could plug my car in to my main batteries and actually use that as a battery. That would be cool. Or it would give me it would give me 200 kilowatts of battery storage opposed to 100. So Colin Barnes says, please don't leave YouTube. I'm not leaving YouTube. People are misunderstanding me. I never said I was going to leave YouTube. All I've been saying is I've been just kind of saying that, and to be honest. So, I mean, I'm not talking shit. I'm not, YouTube and this whole platform has been the main leverage point of my entire career, doing what I've done. And so, I'm grateful for that. It's just crazy when I use Twitter right now and I get almost the same views on my videos as I am here with almost 600,000 subscribers. I'm getting this, some of even the threads that I'm writing are getting the same level of engagement as some of my videos do. So, but you know what? I'm going to take another shot at YouTube and I'm going to just dial up. I'm going to produce I'm going to just start cranking out videos more and just kind of see what happens with it. And maybe we can grow up, because I don't know. I get lately, going into winter, I feel more inspired to make videos, to be honest. It's not that I'm more inspired. Though when I have time to reflect and things like that, generally I do feel more inspired, but I have more time because I've shut down construction, taking the winter off, so I'm going to try just cranking out more videos and just try to do more stuff, where I talk about things and similar to this, but shorter form, and try to make points. And what I'm doing is I'm writing on Twitter and I'm kind of writing a framework of what a video I might be. So I just did, if you look on my Twitter account at Off Grid Stone, I've got these 3 threads that I wrote this week that are just posts and replies. So it's a fairly large body of text, but it's kind of a good way. I can kind of articulate my thoughts better in writing than I can just improvising. Sometimes this works best. This works great too, but it'll be ways that I could make videos. I was looking at the chat that said greenhouses, make the framework or a foundation or a storyline of a video, basically. So that's kind of what I plan on doing. Christine Mose says, you aren't even considered the ultimate asset holder anymore. If your loan provider becomes insolvent, they can legally seize assets, even your retirement savings. Yeah, isn't it absolutely criminal what these bankers have gotten away with? Isn't it absolutely insane? But what are you going to do? My strategy has been to look after my food, water, energy, and shelter, and build that. I've spent the last number of years building that up. And I'm so glad that I have, because I can, if the economy goes to shit, I can let go of a lot of things that I don't really need. I don't need to have a Tesla. I don't need to have a lot of things. I've had an absolutely blessed 5 years since 2019 when I launched from the field. I've just had an absolute blessed ride. And I've enjoyed some of the fruits of my labors, you could say. But it might be time to pull in the reins a little bit. Life isn't a gravy train the whole way through. It's not, you can't just have home runs nonstop, things wax and wane. And so you can learn a lot of things in those periods of time. I was saying earlier how, we've had some challenges recently that have not only brought our family closer together, my wife and I, and even connecting with our kids, but people that I showed up for really showed up for me, and it's a really good thing. And I would stress that, going back to what I've talked about with the 8 forms of capital, and I talk about many times, I've talked about those, and just the value of relationships and the value of social capital, especially in tough times. And, I did that video at the beginning of COVID. I did that video, hands, head, and your heart. What are the three things that you really have, when it all comes down, when it all strips down, when everybody's naked, when everybody's lost something? What do you have? You got what's in your head, the things the things that you've learned, your experiences, your direct skills. You got your hands. What can you do with them? Because knowledge is only valuable when it's applied, and so your hands apply that knowledge, and you make things happen with your hands, build things. You shake hands, doing business deals, things like that. That's making shit happen. Shaking hands, you're using your hands. But then ultimately it's what you have in your heart. And that's, your goodwill, your intentions, the relationships you've built with people over the course of your life. And whether they're in your family or people at church or people whatever, at the Frisbee golf, team. That's really all you have. And so don't forget that, because when we get into this next thing, you're going to need those things. You're going to need them more than anything, because money's not going to be worth much. So, yeah. Oh, there was a super chat there. Bearsworth, how are you feeling about gold and silver these days? Which better? And what about crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum? Much love from North Okanagan. Right on, brother. Yeah, I mean, I'm not buying. I've been buying metals so long that I'm probably going to sell some metals. So I'm feeling good about that, because I bought metals. I could sell a number of those things now and get a pretty good return on them. Same with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's back up to the price where I could sell some Bitcoin and double my money. I bought some at 25,000, and I bought quite a bit at 35 too, but it's gone over what I've paid for it now. And so, yeah, I might cash those things in. So I feel good about them in that they've served their purpose. Assets like that are, because I bought a lot of those assets and thought, when am I ever going to sell these things? Because that's what they're for. It's money. And so if you can't use it, what's the point of it? So no, I feel good about those things. Yeah, I'm not buying, but a lot of people think that Bitcoin is going to scream up again, and gold is too, but I don't know. They manipulate those markets so well that, and I've been into gold for so long, 20 years. I've been into gold and metals and not Bitcoin. I wish I would have got into Bitcoin 15 years ago when my good buddy said, dude, you should just throw a couple $1,000 at this. And I was like, I wanted to buy something else for the farm at the time, and a little Daihatsu truck. That at the time was a better place to spend that money for me. But no, so I think those things are great. And if you got money to buy them because you need a place to store some cash, might be a good thought. I don't think, the thing is though, cash, if we go into this deflationary period, which I think we're going to, cash is actually going to be king. So, I got some young friends that have been looking at buying a house, and I've been just saying, because they got a good deal, and it actually is an all right deal. Real estate isn't all retarded out where I am. There's deals here and there, but it's almost a mathematical certainty. So I said to my young buddy here, I said, if you look at where things are going, so you buy a place right now and you lock in at 6.5 for 5 years. That's what a Canadian deal would get you right now. I think that's what it is. And whatever, the exact rate isn't that important. What is important are the trends, the macro trends. So you buy that house now, and let's say the real estate market does go to shit in 2024, which I really, really think that it will. It's going to be the beginning of a grind of deflationary prices. And so now you're locked into this thing, and now there's a bunch of other houses for sale that are way cheaper than what you had. So in a way, yours is, you're getting devalued. You're getting swallowed in an ocean of devaluation, and you have a hard time justifying paying for this thing. But now you can't sell it because there's so much other stuff to sell. And so my buddy wanted to renovate this place because he's a tradesman, and then he could flip it in a year or two. But you go to flip it, you paid more for that place than what everybody else is going to be paying at the time you're selling your place. So now you can't sell your place, and then you put all the work in for nothing. So it might be better to have a bunch of cash, whether that's paper cash or in the bank. It doesn't really matter. Well, physical cash is always better, but it's not always better. It's better in many ways, but it's not always better because sometimes you have bills to pay, or you need to move money around in the internet world or whatever. And so, but cash, I just mean by available liquid money that you can move, because places that you see in Canada right now that they're asking 800,000. Next year, when it starts, they'll be asking 5, and probably near the end of the year, or into the second quarter, especially going into fall, into the third quarter, when it sales slow down anyways, because they always kind of ramp up in the spring either way. But when it starts to wrap around to fall, you'll see these $800,000 homes going up for 300, or maybe even 250. And it's going to be interesting. They won't let you buy your house with paper cash anymore. You have to prove where it comes from. That's true. Yep, that's true. But that's just the big commercial banks. There's other small lenders that'll do it. But Rock Kennedy says, "Hey Curtis, I can relate to this incredibly. I had you consult with me a few years back on your channel, and you made a video on it. Man, I have a sad story to tell you since we last talked." Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that. Wow. Jeez. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. Christine says it's going to be full warlord at some point. Farm cash or whatever. The local bully will dictate much of your experience. Potentially, that's why I got Philip says, yeah, Kurt cash. Finally, Curtis wakes up. We talk about finally wakes up. But no, going back to what Christine said about warlord is, I don't know. I actually don't think it will. I think the New World Order is going to save the day, in the sense that they're actually going to prevent it from going full warlord. And what it's going to look like out here in the sticks is the roads aren't going to get plowed. Nobody's coming out here, and you're on your own. I think that's the outcome I've been preparing for the last 3 years, is that. Because people are going to be so broke, and if you follow technocracy news, Patrick Wood, that kind of stuff, or Alex Newman, one of my personal favorites. They show you what these guys, they show you the words of all these technocrats and what they want, and they want a situation where everybody's in electric vehicles, so that those vehicles have to be completely localized, because especially in Canada, it's not practical without massive infrastructure to have electrical vehicles. Most people can't charge their vehicle like I can. I'm like 0.1% of people that drive an electric vehicle. Most people just live in the city and charge it on the grid. But they're going to have you so locked down, and then so locked down in debt, that you won't be able to travel, go anywhere. These 15-minute cities ideas, they want you just, hacked, tracked, stacked, and packed. And so those people aren't coming out here because They can't make it out here. Their social credit score won't allow them to go outside of zone 5. You know, today, Mondays and Wednesdays you got to be in zones 1 and 2. On Thursdays you can go to zone 3. I'm just kind of BSing a bit, but that kind of stuff is actually talked about. If you look at the way they're doing parts of London, England, I think what's that area, what's that borough of London that's a 15-minute city now? And anyways, so no, I don't think it will be Mad Max world. I don't think it will, actually. I think it'll be the vast majority of people will take the offer and they'll go into the system. And then these cities will be like a Black Mirror episode. It'll be, you guys ever heard that Andy Warhol, the artist, kind of a pervert and not that great of an artist in my opinion, but he actually had a quote that was that's very, very true today is it was, in the future everyone will be famous. And it's so true, because everybody's on their phones all the time blabbing and here I am doing it, right? But everybody's doing that, and it'll be there's a Black Mirror episode, I think it's one of the early ones in the first season, where everybody's lives in a cubicle basically, and everybody's just on this social media and plays an avatar in this world, and everybody's just broadcasting to nobody. My daughter came up with it reminds me actually, and it ties into this whole idea of in the future everybody's famous. My daughter said this absolutely comical genius thing at dinner tonight, and she calls my brother, or not my brother, she calls her brother, my son, the king of the berry patch. And he's younger, so my son's 2 years younger than our daughter, and he's a boy. He's just like, he just gets his testosterone is just exploding right now, and he just has to railroad his sister, and she's older. She's six, and she'll be 7 in April. But she's really coming into her intellect, and she's really starting to say really deep things, and she's kind of trolling her brother, because he's like running around like, oh, I'm the king, I'm the man, and she's like, you're just the king of the berry patch and nobody cares. And she told me this at dinner tonight, and I was just like, how much more perfect to end a blessed day that my daughter has this hilarious analogy for her raging little growing 4-year-old testosterone boy who's just he just wants to just crush, and it's awesome, and I want to encourage that, of course, but at discretion, and also be gentlemanly. And so he's trying to learn that, but he's the king of the berry patch. And so going back to my analogy of these 15-minute city ghettos, and that your physical existence will be so miserable and uninspiring that you'll just want to be on social media. And so you'll just be on social media, and everybody be holed up in their apartment on social media, and they're all the king of the berry patch, and everybody's broadcasting. But now with AI, and it's just this content, I think we're going into this, and this might coincide with where we're going with this thing, is that we're going into this sort of content apocalypse, where AI is able to create not only so much content, but it's going to just manufacture consent like you've never seen before. It's already writing articles for mainstream media, guaranteed. And I bet that whistle's going to get blown by somebody at some point soon. And it's occupying the chat rooms of everything. I mean, imagine if this was this crazy sci-fi movie where here I am thinking I'm this social media influencer, Curtis Stone, and I'm streaming to 600 people, but they're just bots, and I've just been completely shoehorned into this false existence, right? I'm not suggesting that's what it is. And I know that because I know personally some of the people that are chiming into this chat. So I'm fingers crossed that I'm not in the matrix having that experience. But I think that's where this is going to go. And that's where this whole thing that could be started by this Canadian real estate collapse could come from. And maybe they'll just run the trial balloon in Canada, because I've talked to some friends of mine in the United States in some parts like Tennessee and Arizona, and it's a gravy train. Some farmers I know down in those states are just crushing, having their hugest years ever. So the economies they're all connected, but everybody's experiencing something a little bit different. And just like how in the COVID thing, they'll see if they can ramp up policies really hard in this place and see what that looks like. Well, then let's ramp it up in this place, let's try a bunch of shit at once. And so these globalists just throw shit at a wall and they see what sticks. And it's like, oh, where did it stick this time? Oh, let's go with that. That's working. Oh, the mask thing, that's working. Let's do it here, because some stuff, some stuff in COVID worked well in some places and it didn't work so well in the other place. So they tried different things. Take Back America from Israel says, beat Bop. And then you said later, you're doing great. Thank you. We got one of Owen Benjamin's little gay cult followers in the chat here. He's gone. Thank you for revealing yourself so I can make it so that you never comment on any of my videos again. Support Ukraine, beat Bop. Exactly. Jump on the next bandwagon that they want you to jump on. And that's what it is. So hey folks, I want to share some. So hey, if you guys are liking the stream, hit the like. I don't know if I'm gonna go. Last time I went till something like 11 o'clock or something. I don't think I'm gonna do that tonight. That I woke up feeling hungover when I stayed. My family's all well asleep right now, and I usually go to bed with them, or not much later than with them. So I probably won't run too hard tonight. But I wanted to share something with you guys. We're running it. So if you want to be in my Homestead Accelerator program, if you want to join freedomfarmers.com, we've got a pretty sweet offer right now. That's just sort of it's our Black Friday offer, and I'll just throw it out now to you guys, but it'll run, I think, Black Friday for 24 hours only. It's an all access pass to Freedom Farmers. And it's a one-time payment. It's the last one we ran was an annual payment for $400. And this one is a one-time payment, and you just get everything that we do in perpetuity for one payment. And it's a fairly big number. I'll share it in a minute, but if you want to support my work and want to make it so that I'm still doing this stuff, this is a great way to do it. And it's a crazy deal for what you get. So our whole here, I'll just share my screen here. Actually, our whole platform has grown a lot over the years. It started with, this is just the order form. I'll share this link with you guys. If you want this deal, you can have this deal right now. I'll put it in the chat. I'll just spam the chat with it. Our whole platform has grown a lot over the years. It started in 2019 with me creating from the field.tv. This is basically a content platform where I could make long form content. And then we started getting other content creators in there, and it's grown beyond what I am. But what we've really spent a lot of time on over the years is we have created all these courses. And so these are all the courses that we have now. And these are all courses that show you how to make money and make a living. And most of our courses are about how to make money doing this stuff. Some of our stuffs aren't. Like Dakota's new permaculture masterclass isn't about making money. It's about regenerating the land. And we have a homestead homesteading kind of course that's about how to, do all the preserves and stuff like that. So that's not about money, but most of these are about making money. So we have all these courses in our platform now, and our Homestead Accelerator program, which when we first started running it, which is basically me and my team picking premium homestead real estate that our customers are asking us for and publishing it and doing reviews of the properties. We started charging $300 a month for that because it was worth it, because people were buying properties, the right properties. Might have done the program for a couple months, but you buy the right property, what's a $600 investment? So anyways, we have this whole social media platform in here now too, where there's even a map where it shows you where other members are. If they want to be on the map, you don't have to be on the map, but if you want to get together with people in the flesh. So anyways, we're offering this whole thing for $899, one-time payment. You get everything from the field is in that as well. It's like everything that we've produced is in this. And so that offer is available for you guys. It's our Black Friday offer. So, I don't pitch much in these streams because I just like riffing and putting out goodwill and good information and, my thoughts on things to people. But, there's my pitch. So if you're interested in our platform and what I do, this is not everybody can do this one. I get it. But it's a one and done thing. So it's, you have that once. That's a one-time payment and it's done. So you have access to all of our stuff. So anyways, that's my pitch. I'll leave that pitch there, but maybe what I'll do is I'll put this in the, can I do this here? I'll put it also in the, live stream show notes, if I can do it. Oh no, I can't. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. So that's where, how long does the deal last? Until Black Friday? Or I think it's, however, Black Friday is an American thing. And we're an American company. So, so it's a Black Friday deal. So it goes, this is I'm giving you the early bird right now, basically in the stream. But it's for Black Friday. So you can go through it now, but it's going to get pushed out on Black Friday. It'll go out on our emails and all that. So if you don't want to do it now and you want to wait, you can wait till Black Friday, but that's what the offer is. So I'm throwing it out early for you guys. And if you want to support my work and benefit from some of the insane content that we put out that is completely centered around improving your life, that's what the products and talk to people that have taken my stuff. I put the same goodwill out in my consulting. Everything that we've done is about improving your life, getting you on the land, showing you how to do as many things on the land as possible, making a livelihood out of it, and having a go at it, because that's what did all of this for me. If I never started farming and went on that track, started meeting other farmers, learning what other things could be done, I wouldn't be here doing any of this stuff today. Nobody would probably give a shit about Curtis Stone, the musician. Because I said it many times before, the last thing the world needs is another great guitar player. And, that's how I felt at the tail end of my music career, though I love playing music. I can't wait to get back into it. But nobody gave a shit about me when I was playing music. But when I started farming and talking about things that actually helped people, I love Snarky Puppy's last record. I've listened to it probably 100 times, but at the end of the day, it's not showing me how to produce food. It's not showing me how to create a livelihood. And that's what my work does. And I have an incredible team, and it's become far above and beyond myself. And I'll just keep kind of putting that link in there if you guys want to take it. Yeah, US is it's in US. Anyway, to 3 or 4 could share. Well, that's up to you. Say, how am I going to know? Really? If you should. So Uh, no, USD, because Freedom Farmers is an American company, so it's USD. Um, Gravy, learn to graft trees and clone berry bushes. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Crypto's here to stay. It's the new financials. It is. I think Ethereum will be tried to use. They'll use one of those shit coins. See, I'm only into Bitcoin now. Um, I'm only into Bitcoin. I don't care about any of them, any of the other ones. Um, but I think Ethereum, they'll use something like Ethereum to do it. Or again, they'll just throw shit at a wall and see what sticks. These guys can fund anything. They can just churn this stuff out however they want. So it doesn't even matter which one it is. It won't be Bitcoin though, because Bitcoin can't be printed. Ethereum can be printed. That's why it's a shit coin. And I know some people who got really rich off Ethereum, and all the power to them, right? But I'm not playing the Ethereum game. I'm just Bitcoin. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Who is that guy in San Diego that I was business partner with? Diego Footer. His Permaculture Voices podcast. Yep. Absolutely. Love Diego. Haven't talked to him in a while, but we're all good. XRP is the technology. I ever tell you guys that I personally know the creator of XRP? I actually spent a lot of time with him in Kelowna. Ryan Fugger. He's a guy from Kelowna. He actually created, when it was called Ripple, he created it and sold it way early on, and it became something that really had nothing to do with what Ripple originally was. But yeah, survival takes precedent over entertainment. Absolutely. Yeah, Pierre, you had a interesting, unfortunate experience with Bitcoin there recently. I'm sorry about that, dude. That sucks. Just sucks. By printed, do I mean created out of nothing? Yes. When I'm talking about money, yeah, totally. Every stream, somebody's bringing up Christian from Ice Age Farmer. Everybody. Yeah, no idea where he is. Yeah, Diane, lifetime access. Yes. Yeah, that link you guys I sent, it's lifetime access. It's just a one-time, you get everything that we have. It's just a one-time payment. All the courses, everything that we produce, the social media platform, the mapping, the homestead accelerator. I mean, if you're in the market, like, let me put it to you this way. If you're in the US, if you're in the US and you're looking for a property, our homestead accelerator program pays itself off immediately if you buy one of those properties, because you probably would not have encountered that property otherwise, or you wouldn't have narrowed down your search so much. That's why that program creates so much value, that it's insane that we charge as little as we do for it, because the program on its own was worth $300 a month, and it's so easy to justify that value. In that, again, if you joined it for 3-4 months even and ended up paying $1,200, but then it saved you so much time in searching for a property, it pays itself off. Especially if you buy a place that you saw on there, it pays itself off. So, yeah, when you value things, sometimes you have to think about that, because it's important to recognize that how valuable these things can be. And that's what I've always tried to do, is just create massive amounts of value for people. And yeah, honestly, I can say that it has come back to help me. And like I said, I had a challenging circumstance not too long ago, and some people really showed up to help me. And it's what goes around comes around. RJ says, is that, looks like a picture of my buddy Troy Martz. Curtis, isn't Rob Avis doing Fifth World with Ethereum? and with like Peter Thiel. Yeah, not Peter Thiel. It's what's his name? Um, Joseph Lubin. And yeah, he's on the World Economic Forum, unfortunately. Yeah, I wish that wasn't the situation, but it is. Unfortunately, yeah. I'm sad to say that. Uh Hilltop Blues says, Curtis, you've done very well. We just finished building a home in the States. I have watched your progress. Thank you. Yeah, if you have lifetime access already, Wood Floor Alchemist, yeah, you should have that. If you log into Freedom Farmers, you should have that. Um, so yeah. Yeah, Joseph Lupin is with Ethereum. That's right. Well, this is don't buy just the Homestead Accelerator because it's $300 a month. Just do that thing. Do that one. And that is everything once. Or you can sign up for Freedom Farmers monthly. You can sign up for it monthly and just pay. It's $40 a month. If you go to freedomfarmers.com, you should be able to just find that and just sign up. But that's going to be what our Black Friday offer is. How long am I offering the deal? Till Black Friday. When is Black Friday? Is that this Friday? Is that how it works in the US? Is that tomorrow? Or is it next week? The 24th, isn't it? Black Friday? Anyways, you Americans know. But that offer is early right now. So it ain't Obeezy. Would you be willing to say what happened with Benjamin? I'm out of loop. No, I'm not talking about that fucking loser anymore. Go look it up. Go to his Reddit page and look at what all the hundreds of people that he's burned and burned bridges and stuff. Just go see what they're saying. I don't need to talk about that douche anymore. I'm on to things more positive, things more healthy, things more upward spiral trajectory than to spend time on that. So yeah, what else are you guys saying in the chat? I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this stream for. I'm starting to fade. BTC is not crypto. I 100% agree. There's Bitcoin and there's crypto. I read the Bitcoin Standard, and that is a cool book, man. Actually, there's an interesting book that I read. I read that book back to back with another book. It was last winter I read it. The Bitcoin Standard and The Sovereign Individual. That's a really cool book, The Sovereign Individual. It's really interesting. It is written right before Y2K. And Peter Thiel, of all people, does the forward, and it's hilarious because it's all about the book is all about how Y2K is going to do all this stuff, but then talks about how the sovereign individual is how, as human human innovation continues to innovate, it gets harder and harder to enslave people in some ways, though you could make the case that technologically we're more enslaved than we've ever been. But this book makes a really cool case in that governments will have a harder time keeping citizens because if people can make money online, they're not bound to geography. Thus, they'll just pick the most free countries to live in. And case in point, all these laptop entrepreneurs that live in Nicaragua and Costa Rica and Ecuador and Mexico or whatever, Hawaii, no, not Hawaii, but live in cheap countries, but make a Western life. That's this whole thing of it's hard. People are going to pursue sovereignty more than ever. And I would say that's happening now. And this book is, anyways, I read it with the Bitcoin Standard at the same time or roughly at the same time. And they really gave me a really cool, optimistic perspective on where human freedom could go if we basically call a spade, expose the New World Order. And I don't think we have to do that by trying to take them to court or anything. I just think people need to realize what it is and choose to walk away from it, walk away from the king. And because the king is just the king of the berry patch, as my daughter so eloquently told us over dinner tonight. They're kings of nothing. It's like the king of England isn't even a king. Did you know that? Did you know that? Well, at least of Canada. So Canada has this idea that we have this monarchy. We have a corporation called Her Majesty, which I guess would have now been changed to His Majesty, because the Queen Victoria, and you can look all this up. This is all in Canadian history. It's all documented. It's all on the government websites, even in the statutes. But in 1867, Queen Victoria removed her name from the British North America Act under what was referred to as the Statute Law Revision Act. And so what she did is she removed the enacting clause, which meant that when she dies, her successor assumes the dominion of Canada. She removed her name. It was called the enacting clause. Removed the British royal crown from the British North America Act, meaning that when Queen Victoria died, which she died a long time ago, the successors are posers. They're not actually legitimately bona fide. And what made them bona fide to begin with? A piece of paper, according to them. But on the paper, by their rules, the king isn't even the king of Canada. He's just a poser. And it's all been this dog and pony show this whole time. And it's all a lie. And when you look at that one in Canada, what I suspect you'll find, if you really go into it with everything else, is you'll find that it's all a dog and pony show. It's all BS. And we never had to go along with it at the beginning. It was all voluntary all along. And it will be the whole way through, in my opinion. And that's why you don't have to fear it. But that's also why en masse, maybe not en masse, because I don't have any hopes for the masses, but that if enough people get together and just start saying, we're walking away, we're not in this anymore. I actually think the New World Order is actually going to give us that opportunity. And I'll tell you why. They're going to create the 15-minute cities. They're going to create economic circumstances that are going to make it so hard for people to just get by. But they're going to do it all through monetary means, because this is a commercial system. It's all commerce. It's all about money. It always has been. It always will be. As far as their system, the beast system. And so you're going to get invited into the system, and economic circumstances might make it seem that you're being coerced, but you're not actually being coerced, because coercion is the threat of violence. You're being economically persuaded to join it. And most people will, because they'll think they don't have a choice, but they do. And they'll join it. And what'll happen to the rest of us is that they're going to leave us alone. And it won't be so much of us walking away from the king as it will be the king walking away from us, but leaving us with that absolute responsibility. Now you're on your own. And for me, there's so much sort of poetic, what's sort of a poetic justice in a way with it all, is that all these truthers are expecting this big roundup. They're all, and I don't know where they get all that from, because I don't read it. And I've said this in so many different streams before, but I don't know where they're reading where we're going to get rounded up, because I read their globalist documents, and they don't say that they're going to round us up. They just don't. Like, point an article in one of their publications that says that. They say all kinds of other stuff like lockstep and cyber pandemic, and they want to do this internet blackout thing. That could be something that happens during the whole economic swing, is they could pull that one out too to distract people even more. But yeah, that's what I think how that's going to go, is that they're just going to entice 90% of people that we know into the system, and the rest of us will just be left alone. But being left alone comes with great responsibility, and that's why we've done what we've done, is we've just gone as off grid as humanly possible. And food, water, energy, shelter. Do you have your own source of water? Every property we publish in the Homestead Accelerator has 2 sources of water. I did a little plug for one of our members is actually selling. So what we do with Homestead Accelerator now is members can list their properties if the property passes. So it actually has to be a good property. It can't just be, hey, can we pay you $500? I think that's what we charge to list our property. And so we don't make anything on the deal. People just pay to have it listed on our service. And so we had some members that do that. And one of our members has got a property for sale in Christian Valley area of BC, and it's an insane property. And he just lowered the price. He took my advice. And so if somebody wants a smoking deal in Christian Valley in BC, this property has the most insane water features. So I want to talk about this just because I said all of our properties have 2 sources of water. I want to talk about a bit about water, why it's so important, but just tell you a bit about this crazy water system my buddy's property has. It's got an artesian well. So the property is on a eastern slope, and then it flattens out and it faces southeast. It's like unbelievable aspect on a big eastern face mountain. So you get all the morning sun and pretty much sun all winter, and good shade in the afternoon in the summer, which is ideal because it goes behind this big mountain. It's got this artesian well. So it's just flowing out of the mountain. It's just sputtering out of the mountain 24/7, 12 months of the year. It goes into a pond, and then that pond fills up, and then it just spills over, and then the water just flows out. But what they did was they dug a pit well, I think it was like 10 feet near that artesian well, and then put a pipe in the bottom under the ground. So they dug a big trench, did all this, sealed it up, and then there's a pipe that goes down to the house. I think it's a 1 1/4 inch line or something like that, maybe 1 1/2 inch line. So this property has this insane water feature where it has an artesian filled pit well that's 80 or 100 feet above the house, and it gravity feeds with an underground, totally winterized line to the house, completely passive, no electricity. So this guy's water source is gravity fed year round in Canadian winter with no energy inputs. Talk about the ultimate piece of infrastructure for an off-grid property. It's absolutely insane. And it's got this pond. Anyways, it's the property is incredible. It's a total permaculture wet dream. And they've lowered the price to an actual reasonable price because they took my advice. I said, listen, you want to sell this place? Just lower the price and make a little bit less money, but then sell it. And then somebody will be happy. Somebody will buy that place and be, yeah, we're stoked. So yeah, Black Friday's next week. Thank you. But yeah, that offer, so anyways, why is water so important? Well, a number of reasons. One is the government poisons the water you drink with fluoride and chlorine and whatever other chemicals they put in there. They poison it. That's not good to drink that shit. Everybody knows that. And they geoengineer the hell out of the sky. All that stuff ends up everywhere in water systems. So your own source of water that comes from the earth is like the best. It's probably one of the best health decisions you can make in your life, is just drinking your own water. I mean, that's what it is for us. Like I've got multiple sources of water now because I've got these ponds that capture snow melt. I'm so stoked to see them. Oh, I got a little pond update actually for you guys. But anyways, they lowered it to 750, which is something like that, 759 maybe. And what was I saying? Yeah, so I've got multiple sources of water now, but the water we drink is from deep in the earth. It can't be chemtrailed. It can't be poisoned. It can't be turned off. You know, to have your water is, because without water you have nothing. Like you can't do anything on a property without water. You can't live there, can't grow food there, you can't do anything there. So you need to have your own source of isolated water. B2 says, how can I get consulting with you? Hey, yeah, so folks, I'm consulting again. Because I'm taking the winter off work, I thought, why don't I work? Why don't I help some people and make some money? So I'm consulting again. If you guys want more information about my consulting, I'm going to do a new website, but you can go to the urbanfarmer.co and then go under connect. I'll share the link here. So somebody's asking, and just contact me through my website, and then I'll send you more information, basically. So just go here. And I've actually got some people lined up. I'm stoked. It's been years since I consulted, and I got kind of my feet wet with it again when we do our coaching calls for the Homestead Accelerator. Been helping some people in those monthly calls. But yeah, so if people want me to do private consulting, I can do that. If you just want me to look, I can give you a cheaper offer than my consulting rate. Okay. I'm not going to say my consulting rate here because it's just not good form to do that. But I'll tell you when you email me. If you want us to just look at properties, though, a cheaper way to do that is to actually get my team to do it. And I look at them too, but they batch a bunch of stuff for me, and it's just really efficient and really lean. So if you don't want to bullshit with me and have me like help you in your personal or business or whatever, just join the Homestead Accelerator and we'll look at your properties. We do it in the coaching calls. And we do it, we can actually do it personally too. And if you reach out to Matthew on our team, he can actually just help facilitate that. But you know what? If you want to just contact me through my website, I'm happy to send you more information because you have a couple options. Basically, you can have me consult for you personally. That will cost the most. Or you can have my team review those properties and I will see them too, but they'll set them up for me so that I can look at them really quickly, and they'll do all the heavy lifting with the questions that I would have first, and then I can do all the best stuff basically on top. Or you can just join the Homestead Accelerator, and every month when we do our coaching call, members throw properties at me in the live call and I look at them. And so you might not want to do that if you want to keep them secret too. But anyways, those are 3 options for you. So if you want to just reach out to me on the website there, and I'm happy to just get you in text what I mentioned there and get you a solution basically. Because yeah, you got a few options on what you can do. What are my thoughts on Paraguay farm communities? I don't know anything about the farm communities in Paraguay exclusively. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but Paraguay is apparently a cool country. You know, I've talked about this a lot before, but I want to touch on why I never moved to South America. And if I were to move to South America, where would I move? And so I could do a whole bit on this. I should write a thread on this about on Twitter or something, because I've thought about moving to South America for many years. There's a couple countries that I'd be interested in. My one buddy's in Ecuador right now. He says he really likes it. I got another buddy in Nicaragua. He says he really likes it. I'm not interested in Costa Rica. US dollar. It's not cheap. What's the point? And Uruguay. Doug Stacy lives down in Uruguay. That sounds like could be cool. Anyways, The reason we didn't do that is for a couple reasons. One is if times get tough there, and times can get tough there, times can get tough everywhere. Um, you're the gringo and you don't speak the language. So you got nothing. You got very little social capital, and your food, if you know, you're the alien, so it's hard being an immigrant. It's tough. I always admire immigrants who come across and might have to deal with shit, or just don't have it's always favorable to be in the majority of any country that you live in, right? So it's not a North American exclusive racism thing like all the social justice warriors tell you. It's always better to be in the majority, and that's just how it works. But anyways, it sucks being an immigrant, especially if you're always perceived as a resource. And that's how it is in South American countries. I've traveled in Mexico extensively. Not the other ones though, granted. But you're always a resource. People are like, they see money. They get pie eyes when they look at you, And if times get tough, that would suck. Another reason that I don't like South American countries is that shit doesn't happen fast. Everything's manana. I like to make things happen fast. I like to get things done. And I'd want to, if I was living down in a South American country, I would want to be doing exactly what I'm doing. I'd be off grid. I want to be in the mountains. I wouldn't want to be on the coast. And I'd be growing my own food and doing exactly what I'm doing down there. And maybe one day I can do that. Maybe one day I'll be able to do that, have a second place, or maybe I'll move down there. I don't know. But for a period of time. But I wouldn't want to be down there when the shit hits the fan, I'll tell you. But there's places you can be. There's little communities and pockets of places you can go where you can have a bit more of a network and all that. But the thing too that I find in Mexico at least, and I don't want to just say that the rest of South America or Central America is the same, because I don't know that it is. But in Mexico, everything is always a negotiation. It's always everybody's trying to nickel and dime you right out of the gate, right? They're trying to the smash and grab. They're trying to just get 1,000 pesos for a shitty straw hat when it's only worth 50, but they're starting at 1,000, and it gets exhausting. We had this Airbnb once, and we used to go to Zihuatanejo a lot, and we really liked that town in that area. And we were staying at these expats from Vancouver that had this great place down there. We stayed at a little pool, private pool is awesome. And I saw these Mexicans come in to install a heat, a ductless split. They got those ductless splits on the walls down there for their heating and cooling. And 4 guys showed up, and it took them 4 hours to change one ductless split unit. A trades guy in Canada would have had it done in an hour with travel. And I was just watching these guys take a smoke break and sit there and stand and talk in Spanish, and they know that we don't understand them. And they're just taking these owners for a ride. And then they had a problem with the pool. And then these guys come and they spend hours, and it was annoying because we were there over Christmas. This is maybe 2019. Yeah, it was 2019 actually. And it was annoying because these guys are just hanging out, smoking cigarettes every 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes of smoke break, and they just take you for a ride. And then you get pissed off, and I don't understand, and they just pretend to not understand you, and you just get hosed. And whereas in Canada, at least the part of Canada that I live in, because Canada's a big place, you could live in the GTA in Toronto, it'd be a totally different world, totally different scenario, totally different country, really. But where I live, it's Western values are king here. It's Christian values here. There's very little immigration here. There are the vast majority of immigrants here are Indians, which, in my opinion, if you're going to pick an immigrant, Indians are all right. They're not trying to impose their culture on you or anything, or they don't get caught up in the issues of the day. They're not activists. They're just running farms and doing their thing. And but by and large, out here, when somebody says they're going to do something, for the most part, it gets done, and it gets done in a timely manner. and you can trust your neighbor here. I speak the language. I'm in the cultural majority. That has value in tough times because, like I said before, what's in your head, what's in your hands, and or what can you do with your hands, and what's in your heart, and all those things are really all that matter. But if you are in a place where you don't speak the language, you're a foreigner, people only look at you as a resource. No thanks. No thanks. Juju Lapu says, Curtis, your take on investing in a self-sufficient large community and being a loner on your homestead with few like-minded neighbors. I'm undecided where to invest. Yeah. Are you asking my take? I wouldn't want to be a loner. No way, man. I want to be around people that I know and at least have 5 to 10 people around me that I can really trust, that I can really lean on. And I have that here. And that's worth more than anything, you know. Case in point with some friends of mine really showing up for me and helping me out. And you know, it's hard to do that in places where you're the foreigner. It's hard. It can be done though. You can make the network, you can get in, and I'm not saying that these things can't be done. It's why we decided not to. Because yeah, I mean, in retrospect, my money that I spent on this property could have gone 3 times, 4 times the length in those countries, but I might not even be done my foundation at that, you know, that things are mañana in Mexico. Like I'd never seen dog fuckery, for lack of a better term, anywhere in my life like I have in Mexico. And we went, my wife and I went down Mexico for years, 7 years in a row, or no, not 7. Yeah, 7 years in a row. We went to Mexico. Some winters twice. We go at the beginning and then go later in like February, March. We used to get these direct flights to Puerto Vallarta from Kelowna, and then we would just take the bus to Sayulita or San Pancho, and we used to go to those places at first. But I remember this one time I went to Sayulita, and this is the early days of Sayulita. If anybody's been there or knows the town I'm talking about, these days it's just a shit show. It's not really fun anymore there. But it was the earlier days of Sayulita. There was a construction site. It was a house build that was down, like we were up on the high side of the city, the high side of the road, and looking down, I was watching this construction site, and we got in, we were a bit jet lagged. Because I think one trip we came from another side of the country. Anyways, we were jet lagged, off by 4 or 5 hours, say. And we had a kind of day where we were just laying around. This is before we had our daughter, when my wife and I were just going down there by ourselves. And we were hanging out, and I was just watching. I'm just sitting on the deck smoking weed, watching this construction site pretty much for a good chunk of the day. We were in Mexico. We're just decompressing from our travel and just sitting around on the deck. We had this beautiful view, and I could see this construction site down below, but it wasn't annoying to us or anything. And I was just kind of watching it. I literally watched guys push piles of dirt from one side of a room to another. I'm not kidding you. And I watched them all day. And I even did some time lapse photography of it at the time. This is years ago. And so I don't have that slideshow anymore. But I was fascinated. When I went home, I was showing all my friends, like, look at this. These guys literally did nothing for an entire day of work and many days of work. We were at this Airbnb for weeks. These guys did nothing for weeks. They're probably building a house for some gringo, and there's only one point guy who talks to the gringo, and then everybody else is just working for the point guy. But these guys were literally pounding the pooch, effing the dog. That's what we call it in Canada, fucking the dog, all day. And I've never seen anything like it, because my experience with Mexicans growing up in Kelowna, British Columbia, which is a big soft fruit hub, my experience with Mexicans was always really good. I used to work at these orchards when I was younger, sorting cherries, picking cherries, stuff like that. And the Mexicans that I knew hustled, like they hustled like nobody's business. And so we always had this stereotype that Mexicans are just really hard workers. It's no. It's just the best Mexicans leave Mexico to come and work in Canada and then go back and live like kings. And they're very upper class people in their little villages and society. They're kind of revered as a resource, for their family, because some of these guys have like 12 kids. But that's what I always thought Mexicans were. But no, was I wrong? When you go to Mexico and see what the average Joe does on a construction site, it's sweet F all. But, they're making 200 pesos a day, which is about $15. And so maybe they're doing what they're worth in labor. But my goodness, I mean, so the point I'm trying to make is things don't get done. Shit doesn't get done. Maybe I'll, even my buddy Jeff Berwick, he's I think he was joking to me not too long ago that he would have his homestead built faster than mine because he has an army of Mexican laborers that he can pay for because his dollar gets a lot further in Mexico than it does here. And he's right, but I don't think he's done his homestead yet. And I've done mine with Canadian labor and me doing a ton of the work. And I think I might be done before Jeff. So put that out onto the record for my buddy Berwick as just, in good faith, a little fun race to the finish. But because I'm living on here, like, I'm not even done my home, but I'm mostly done my homestead. I'm living on my homestead. Yes, it cost more, but I got it done. And that's the thing, that in South America, in Central America, shit just doesn't get done. It doesn't have the Protestant attitude. And I can see why. If you spend a lot of time in the tropics or in really warm climates, you just don't feel like doing the work. And even if you think about the traditional diet of those places, stuff just grows everywhere. There's fruit trees all over the place. There's fish abundantly everywhere. You don't have to work that hard to eat. But you come from a cold European country, the Western Protestant work ethic. Where does that come from? It comes from cold seasons. Why where does that German work ethic come from? Like, I'm German, mostly German. Where does that German work ethic, that Protestant work ethic come from? It comes from winter. It comes from the fact that you have 4 seasons. One of them sucks, though, with technology, we can enjoy winter. I enjoy winter, but it mostly sucks. But because you can't grow food. So you have to work hard to sow the seed, to raise the animals, to get everything to harvest, and then make sure there's enough food stored to get you through winter when you can't grow food. That's where the Protestant work ethic comes from, or the Western European work ethic comes from, because warm countries don't have that kind of work ethic. You could make the case that they're getting it, especially in Asia, because Asians hustle like no tomorrow. They outwork everybody. But not all Asian countries are warm either. But anyways, that's where that work ethic comes from. And that's why when Westerners like myself go down to Mexico, we just scratch our head when we see guys effing the dog. We're just going, what are you doing? You got to work. You got to get it done. Like, make it happen. And so that's the long and short of why I didn't decide to settle down in Mexico. Obdiker says, what about Saskatchewan? I don't like Saskatchewan. I don't. The only places in Canada I think that are worth living, in my humble opinion, take it for what it's worth, are British Columbia is no further north than Kamloops or Clearwater. Though, you can find good deals up north for sure, but it's cold in the winter and it's buggy in the spring and summer. And so it sucks. And then Alberta, pretty good. Alberta, even up around Edmonton, some of the best value in Canada right now is in that region that we're finding. Alberta in general is okay. The best value in general is in Alberta right now. If you want to find homestead properties that are, if you read my thread, I did a really good Twitter thread at Off Gridstone. It was the one I did on Monday. I went into sort of my main insights of what we've pulled from looking at properties for the last 6 months. Is so Alberta and you can find some decent deals in Northern Ontario, but there's often such a lack of infrastructure that it's not really worth the cheap money. And then I've never really been a fan of the maritime provinces. Actually, we had on Homestead Accelerator, we listed a property in PEI that was actually pretty cool. One of our members is one of their properties. It's a really cool small scale homestead property. It's got greenhouses, it's got fields, it's got a cool house. You got to like the snow, it's 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet of snow out there every year. So, but no, I mean, for me, Canada, it's really Alberta or southern British Columbia, central to southern British Columbia. And that's, to me, the only places worth living. I don't like the coast. That's what I was going to say about the tropics too, is never live on the coast ever, especially with the amount of geoengineering that's going on now and how aggressive it is. Never live on the coast. If you're going to live in the tropics, you got to live in the mountains. My buddy who's just moved down to Ecuador, they're 3,000 meters. 2,000 meters. So 6,000 feet, way out of the hurricane zones. And it's beautiful because it's temperate up there. Like I've been to some small towns and villages in Mexico, really high elevation. I loved it. I was like, this is where it's at, man. It's chill. The temperature is really stable. You don't have to deal with weather extremes. There's less tourists and stuff too. It's just way, way nicer. Southern Ontario, no. Keely Green says if it sells, Curtis gets 3%. No, that's not true. I don't. We don't take any. Even my yeah. Even some of these properties I mentioned today, no, not at all. We don't. We had to be very careful about that shit because real estate licenses are very egregious. They're so we had to really dot our T's or dot our I's and cross our T's when we got into this thing, because we could if they suspect that you're taking a piece of the action on real estate deals, you could see some serious, I guess, fraud charges or whatever. So no, we don't take any percent on that, and I'm happy to defend that in court if anybody ever wanted to, because I've seen some people, the odd person talking shit about that, like, oh yeah, you guys are in violation of licensing and stuff like that. It's like, no, we're not. No, we've done our diligence. I know how to read the law. And we have lawyers too in our company. So no, we are not taking a piece of the action, and we're not a part of any of that. Though I'll tell you what, part of me at some point wants to get into real estate investing, because I think there's going to be some insane opportunities in 2024. And here's the other thing that I didn't say about that when we were talking about it, is that there's going to be this deflationary period, short period of time. Things are going to get really cheap, bargain basement prices on all kinds of stuff, and property. But you'll also be competing with the banks. And I said this a year ago when I started doing those videos promoting our Finding the Perfect Homestead Property course, where I teach you how to evaluate land and use the techniques that I use. I said that is that BlackRock, State Street, all these cronies, they're just going to clean house. And because and that's even more icing on the cake of how much of a scam the financial system is that these banks just can get people to take mortgages on money that they print, and they're so cheap that the only time they want to come in and buy up actual real estate is when everybody else has been fleeced. That's how insane and criminal all these Wall Street people are. They're just complete criminals. They're just it's like Max Kaiser says, it's financial terrorism. It's absolute criminal amounts of greed, and it's such a gravy train for all of these sort of upper management to the top, that they're all just they're just snorting huge amounts of cocaine, and they're so high on absolute just devastation. And I used to listen to Max Kaiser all the time, but I kind of got sick of it because I listened to him for many years, over 10 years. You just get sick of it because it shows how greedy these guys are. You just get pissed off. And I just don't want to be pissed off. I don't want to listen to shit that just pisses me off. And so, yeah, I don't pay as much attention to it anymore. The road to serfdom, exactly, Larry. Yeah, the road to serfdom. And that's the irony. How earlier I was saying all these conservatives think that it's just liberals that bring in globalist policies. But I laid out multiple examples in Canada where the conservative government's brought in the most egregious globalist policies. Is the irony of today is that the left, which are so opposed to capitalism and this, that, and the other, and they all want, communism and basically communism, right? The irony of it all is that the communism that's being brought in is through the big banks. The banks are the ones that are the communists. And if you look into a lot of these top cronies, these sort of neocon, big financial guys, they're all Marxists, and they talk about it, but they're not Marxists for them. They're in the private club, right? They're in the aristocratic circle. So it's communism for thee and aristocracy for me. That's how it is for these cronies. So it's crazy, but don't let it get you down. Is Freedom Farmers and From the Field two different programs? Yes, but we're consolidating them. So you're going to see, there's going to be an update pretty soon where From the Field is going to go into the Freedom Farmers platform. And basically we're just doing that for efficiency and to cut costs. We use this platform for From the Field. It costs us $3,000 a month. It's ridiculous. Why are we spending that money just to host videos? And it's when it goes into Freedom Farmers, it's going to be better anyways, because then it's going to integrate with all the social media stuff. Where right now, if you're on From the Field and you're commenting, oh shit, I got to read people's questions. I forgot all about that. My apologies, folks. If you're in From the Field and you're leaving questions, which I'm going to do right now, we're going to do the Q&A, and we'll go into that phase of this, and then people can super chat me, and then I'll answer people's questions that way, and then I'm going to wrap this thing up and go to bed. But if you're leaving questions in From the Field, that's not connected directly to your Freedom Farmers or even From the Field members community, because it's a separate platform. And so it's going to go and consolidate. And so it's actually going to get better. All of the From the Field stuff, all of it is going to get better once it consolidates. And so I'm going to answer you guys' questions, but I'm going to go take a quick pee break, and I will be right back. So let me just I'll put that offer link in there here again, and I'll just, so that if anybody wants to join that, the all-in-one Freedom Farmers thing, do that. And I'll be right back. I'm going to go take a wee, and we'll do our Q&A. I got a cat. My son named him Fluffy. And I found kind of well, not funny, but kind of gruesome actually. I found his brother's remains today. So we got these two kittens. Some friends had some unexpected kittens, and my kids always wanted kittens. Well, not always, but wanted kittens. And so we got a couple kittens in the summer, and they were named Fluffy and Ginger. So each kid got to name one. Ginger was the orange tabby cat. This is the gray tabby cat, and they're brothers. And we're really training them to be outside cats, and we put them outside at night because they're mostly nocturnal and they just knock shit over in the cabin all night, and it's annoying. And our dog sleeps outside for the most part too. And so anyways, they'd been outside, and we had a skunk come and spray near our cabin. It was brutal. And I guess and that was around the time that this other cat went missing. And I today had a guy come. I had these shipping containers that I'd been holding stuff in for years, and returned them today. And underneath one of the shipping containers, I saw a paw, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's a cat paw. And I grabbed it, and it was the short part of the arm, and then the bone all the way up to the head. Both arms I found underneath this thing, and it was his brother Ginger, and that was his remains. And it was a skunk that got him, tore him apart, and left the bones and the paws under the container. And it was quite gruesome, but I showed the kids and nobody cried. Animals die. It's tough out here, you know. So that's what happened to our cat. But anyways, I'm going to get into yeah. Channel 3 says I would still be pissing. All right, so I'm going to get into the Q&A here. Oh my goodness, there's a lot here. So hopefully we're not going till midnight again on this one. I can't do that again, folks. Sean says, in the live stream announcement video, you mentioned you were seeing signs of impending financial collapse when you were in town. If you could, what signs are you seeing in your area? Feel free to riff on this one. Yeah, I kind of already have actually. But I'm seeing a lot of people just not doing good, not making money. And, everybody's making a little less money, and people in trades are still doing good. But I've just seen a lot of people take jobs they don't want to take. People really tighten up the spending. There's more stuff on Facebook Marketplace than there ever has been, probably. That's kind of the stuff that I'm seeing. So, and then you had another one, Sean. What sort of renewable cleaning? Wait a second. Am I reading? Oh, these are from last week. Okay. I read yours last week. Now I'm going to go into this week. Daniel says, hey, Curtis, would you mind demonstrating the PVC pieces that connect to the bottom of your cisterns piece by piece and their dimensions? It would be a very smaller version of what you have, and I'm unfamiliar with these different parts. It's in from the field. It's in the vlogs. Frankly, I don't want to hike up there right now. Well, I couldn't in the stream, but it's really simple, actually. I'll explain it to you. And it's all common PVC parts. And I only use PVC for things like that, for manifolding cisterns or something like that. I don't use PVC pipe anywhere on my farm. I use poly. So at the bottom of the cisterns, there's a bulkhead. Okay, a bulkhead is just a thing that's threaded through, and it's friction fit so that it doesn't leak, and then it comes out with the threaded thing, and then you can put on whatever you want there. So what I did was I threaded all this with 2-inch PVC. And so I threaded a coupling on there that got me to something that I could couple 2-inch PVC onto. So it's a thread. It's called a thread to slip, 2-inch PVC slip. And then, I glued on an elbow, and then I basically just had piping in between each one, and then the next one had a T. And so I basically just threaded NPT, which is national, oh no, FPT, female pipe thread, 2-inch to that, to slip, 2-inch PVC slip, coupled on an elbow, and then put it sideways because all the tanks are together sideways next to each other. And then it goes to the next one. And then that next bulkhead has a 2-inch FPT to 2-inch PVC slip with a T. And then the pipe goes through and tees the next one. Then the next one has a T. And then the last one has an elbow coming in the opposite direction. Oh no, it has a T because then the whole system it tees off at the end that runs down to the gravity feeds down to the bottom of the irrigation system. But from the field vlogs, they would have been the vlogs from not last summer, but the summer before. So they would have been the 2021 vlogs in there in the spring. I built all that and summer. So those videos are all there in detail, showing you how I put that together. Andrew/Rooted says, Curtis, our 5-acre BSK pasture in Sedalia, Colorado, has made progress with seed drilling, milk cow, and meat bird tractors, but a lot of regeneration is needed. It moves slowly here. Would you consider using a manure spreader with green manure or compost to build pasture soil? I have quite a pile of each and access to a 3-point manure. Absolutely. Absolutely. In that climate, in a BSK, your soil is so what's the term? Porous and brittle. I mean, it's a brittle climate. So you need to accelerate regeneration with there's the cat, with whatever tools necessary. And so absolutely, you're absolutely 100% on the right track there. Spread manure, throw down cover crops, absolutely, all of it. And then flail mow, and then flail mow that stuff in to build the soil up and then plant again. Nicholas says, hey Curtis, hope you are well loved. You are well loved in your videos and your new ponds. I finally got my farm 3 generators linked in with 103 solar panel array and well system. I still need battery storage. Wanted to know what you would recommend for the types of batteries for this. Do you think the Canadian economic scenario will be worse than the American implosion, economic collapse that's coming? What do you recommend one should do to prepare for this collapse beyond being on property and growing food, especially for those of us who are in peri-rural? Lastly, Curtis, have you ever thought of having a series of looking at property, those of us who own and have having your critique for security or recommended improvements for the coming collapse? Thank you. Always appreciate your viewpoint, and God bless you. And may you keep breathing in that sweet, sweet prana. What's his name there? Sweet prana baby. That guy's hilarious. Yeah. Well, maybe, for so many years I've traveled and made videos that the traveling's hard when you have a family. And so I don't know, maybe, probably not, most likely, but do I think the Canadian economic scenario will be worse than the American implosion? No, they'll all be bad. They'll all just happen in different times, but then they'll all be in the grand scheme. I mean, I think if you look at imagine a super macro view of the world economy, it's going like this. And yeah, you can look at, say, Tennessee's economy is going like this, or Alabama's economy is like this, or whatever. Just arbitrarily, I'm just throwing names out there. It doesn't matter. But overall, it's all going down. And just like with the COVID scam, certain periods will experience different things in different times. But generally speaking, you're in the COVID era of those 2 years. But it got a bit more crazy in New York at this time, a little more crazy in San Francisco and what have you. It'll be the same with the economy. So I think it'll all be bad. I'll tell you what, though, I'm happier to be in Canada than to be in the United States, because we don't have mass shootings here. We don't have, crazy stuff like that. And in the less populated areas in the United States, it's similar to Canada. So there's lots of good places in the United States to live. But I'm very happy to be where I am because there's just so much less violence, so much less animosity here. In my local area, I don't see any of this woke stuff or any of it. Anyways, what would you recommend people do to prepare for this collapse beyond just the property stuff and the farming stuff? Well, I've talked about that a lot in the past, even in this stream tonight, is focus on your 8 forms of capital and build capital in other ways outside of money. So build your social network, build your community, work on your skills, work on your resources, buy tools, buy, a good thing to spend money on these days is tools and equipment, because those things are useful and they'll always have a use. And you might be able to find some deals when we go into our deflationary period, but I wouldn't hold your breath for everything, right? Because some things just might become unavailable. So I would say that, focus on, get out of here. Come sit and let me pet you. Focusing on, all kinds of stuff like that. That's all I really say that. And lastly, have you ever thought about the series? Yeah, the series, I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I've been creating content for 10 years. I've been on YouTube for 10 years. Well, it'll be 10 years this January. And I've waxed and waned in the kind of content I make and how I fit into this whole space. And I think for me, my future isn't going to be so much in videos, that it's going to be more in writing. And I'll probably make videos for a very long time still. I'm not saying I'm throwing the towel in, not that at all. I'm going to ramp it up actually for a little while and see if I can play with the algorithm again and see if I can get my YouTube channel back on track. I used to get so many views, I think I just stopped posting for so long that's probably what it is. Hey, let me swing at me. It's a cat. But I think it's in the long term, it's going to be me more writing. I think I enjoy writing more than I enjoy making videos. I enjoy making videos, don't get me wrong. I still do after 10 years, but I'm really enjoying writing right now. And I want to write another book, and I want to kind of consolidate where a lot of what's been on my mind for the last, say, 5 years. I've learned so much since 2016. And I want to kind of just consolidate it in place. And I think right now what I'm having fun with in Twitter is that it's allowing me to write things that are important to me and that I'm thinking of, and getting an instant feedback loop on what people think about those things. And that's kind of what I like about Twitter, opposed to I was writing on Medium for a while, and I was enjoying it. But what I like about Twitter is that you get more feedback, in the sense that you can even see down to the sentence or down to the paragraph which things people like more, which is useful actually. And especially if you're a content creator, it's good to know what people are responding to. It's good to know if something you're saying is resonating and making sense. So I think that's going to be more of my future in content is writing, and I'll continue making YouTube videos for a while. And I don't know, I don't have any plans to stop making them. I just know that right now I'm enjoying writing a lot, and it's feeling new and fresh. And it's, I'm not making any money on Twitter, but Twitter seems to be engaging people a lot more. Like, I'm growing quite fast on there, and it seems difficult to grow on Twitter. I mean, people that have, say, 1 million followers on YouTube have 20,000 followers on Twitter. Twitter seems to be a harder place to get followers, and maybe that's kind of cool. Maybe it's a quality over quantity thing, or maybe they're all bots. I don't know. But anyways, thanks for your question. My nose is so itchy. In the winter, I get dry, really dry skin. It really gets dry up here. And my nose is so itchy. Michael Mills, Hey, Curtis, hope all is well. In your last stream, you mentioned about opening a business in the United States is easy. I live in Canada and was wondering if you could recommend any websites or invites on how I could figure that out. Just call any law firm. There are law firms, and legal in the States is so cheap these days because lawyers are so a dime a dozen. Like lawyers in the States are half the prices that they are in Canada. Seriously. Especially just commercial lawyers who just do deals, set up companies and do stuff like that. It's so cheap. So I don't really have any particular firms, but just look up any firms that do international stuff and just send them an email and say, hey, do you set up corporations in the US? They all do for Canadians, and they do. It's so easy. If you're a Canadian, how you do your accounting in Canada will also depend on what you do down there. Because I've done a few different things. I used to have a C corp to be a partnership in an LLC. Now my corporation here is just a partner in the corporation in the United States because I've kind of sorted out how to take care of myself, to do my books in Canada, so to speak, that we found a very advantageous way for that to translate into the US. But I don't really want to go into the weeds on that because it's just not my thing per se. We use lawyers to set those corporations up. So lawyers can do that. And they're cheap in the US. They're cheap. And shop around. And don't let them nickel and dime you. They're so competitive for legal in the US that some lawyers are making $50 an hour. Anyways, Daniel, another question. When making the bend on the steel pipes for a Gothic steel greenhouse using a 10-foot pipe, how many feet from the bottom do you need to, dude? I don't know. I don't remember. And I don't have it on a chart. But how many feet from the bottom do you need before? Well, I mean, I guess I can answer that question. Have it at least waist height. If you do, it depends on how wide the tunnel is. If the tunnel's going to be only say 12 feet wide, then it'll have to start bending at almost at thigh height. But if it's about 16 feet wide, you can start bending at about waist height, or even just like nipple height. You could start bending. So that's what I would say to that. Manoj has another question. Two questions. One, are you preparing for the here's the one. I mentioned this at the very beginning of the stream. Are you preparing for the hyperinflation by buying US long bonds? Hell no. I'm not buying that shit. Sorry to swear. No, I'm not buying garbage stocks, bonds. I'm not doing that. No, I'm not buying any of that stuff. Have I come across this book, Green Prosperity by Thomas Eppel? And he talks very similar to you. Secure food. Yeah. No, I'm not familiar with his work, but he's got the right ideas. Buying US long bonds. No, I don't. I'm completely out of the, I pulled everything out of the markets, and I did have stuff because before I knew the things that I know now, I was being ill-advised by accountants that said, oh, you need to do this so that you pay less taxes and put money here and there. And I did all that crap, RSPs, GICs, all that crap. I cashed all that stuff out. Get out of here, kitty. So I'm not in any of that stuff. So don't talk to me about that stuff because I won't give you good advice. I'm not in that. I'm in metals, Bitcoin, land, tools, trees, ponds, soil, and stored produce and greenhouses. Those are the things that I'm long on those things. I'd love to have a conversation with a guy like Gerald Salente or something and talk about what we're long on. That's what I'm long on. I'm long on soil, man. I'm long on water systems. I'm long on irrigation. I'm long on water pumps. I'm long on tidy tanks for fuel. and fuel. Yeah, that's what I'm into. So I'm not, I'm completely out of the markets. I'm not in anything anymore. Pulled everything out in 2020 when I sold my home in Kelowna, or when we didn't sell it till 2021, but during that time I pulled everything out. Sean says, my question expands upon the question I asked from last week's stream regarding renewable cleaning agents that can be produced off grid. Maybe it wasn't clear enough my question. But what are, if there are any, some methods for cleaning agents from an off grid location? In other words, is it feasible or worth it to generate substances like rubbing alcohol, lye, and vinegar, maybe others? Yeah, sure. Am I doing it? No. But yeah, why not? But again, at what cost? You know, yeah, add it to the list of things you got to do. Probably something we'll do at some point. I've got a lot of grapes, and it's so cool about this greenhouse is it's -2 Celsius outside right now, and it's still only 12 degrees in here Celsius, which is comfortable enough. Like I'm not I wouldn't want to be in a t-shirt. I'm wearing, my some light layers, and I got a hat on, but that fire that I started in the garage is not doing much. So it's 12 degrees in here with no heat, essentially. So that's pretty cool. So I'm long on that. I'm long on climate batteries. But these grapes, if these were outside, they would have dropped their foliage a month ago. But they're in here and they're still, and there's not a lot. There still were some grapes on these recently, but these grapes will pump next year. So I'm long on perennials and stuff like that. But yeah, with grapes, yeah, we could make alcohol. We could make rubbing alcohol. We could distill. So absolutely. And in the long term, we're going to be doing stuff like that for sure. And then another question. What are options for less toxic, more eco-friendly paints and stains? I don't know. I mean, everything I use is no VOC. So all the painting we did in here, that will be in the house, in my garage office, we use no VOC paint. And that's really all I can say about that. And same for the exterior stuff too. So we don't use, I try to use everything as least as toxic as possible. Hey, Chris from Campbell River. Dude, I got a funny story about Campbell River I could tell sometime. Really enjoying these recent streams. PST evenings is where it's at. Giving your perspective on real estate and being in BC. I was wondering if you know of any market for building earthship homes and developing homestead properties, not unlike what you've done at your place. Do you know if there's much of a space for it either on the island or in the province? As a young guy in the trades, it's something that interests me as a potential career path. However, I'm wondering if, in your opinion, it's worthwhile a path to go on, assuming it's actually a sustainable market to learn towards having the skills to offer people in. Thanks for your time. All the best. Yeah, right on, brother. If I were getting into, the thing with natural building, and I love it, but I didn't do it. I did some things that are natural building methods, but not like cob or straw. I didn't do any of that stuff. The reason I don't do any of that stuff is that it's a pain in the ass to get people to do it. So unless you want to do it DIY, there's very few tradespeople around that do it. And so maybe that's where you're thinking there might be a niche. And I would say potentially, but don't pigeonhole yourself in there. If you want to get into construction, get into just general carpentry, or, a gravy train right now is plumbing. I got a buddy who's just crushing plumbing. There's so much demand for trades. HVAC's a good trade to get into. Thing is, that's good about carpentry is if you get into carpentry, you can really cross over to a lot of the other trades. Just in that, if you know how to do carpentry, you'll know how to do rough-ins for electrical and plumbing. And so then you can cross over into those trades. If you do good carpentry, you're going to learn how to build concrete forms really good. And so then you're going to get into doing concrete. If you're involved in house construction and like residential, you can cross over into a lot of other things. So as a young man, I would suggest, and carpentry is fun. Like I love carpentry. I'm a fairly, I guess, intermediate carpenter, and I love it. And being involved in the build and just seeing everything really refined my carpentry skills, understanding framing better and all that. But yeah, it crosses over into a lot of good things, and it's fun. It's fun being a framer. Framing's rad. I think it's a really cool trade. I really enjoy it. I love the nail gun, and I love running chop saw, and just I think it's cool. I think it's a really good trade. So I would get into that, and then yeah, get into some natural building, but not a lot of people are asking for natural building. And where this economy is going in 2024 with this real estate collapse, there's not going to be demand for natural building. Realistically, not really. There's going to be demand to do renos. And so if you can get into renovation, and that's a good general trade to get into, because you can learn a lot of stuff at once. And oh, there's that light that I had going, gonna die. Is that yeah, if you can do renos, because all these people that are going to lose their homes, all those homes are going to go back up for sale really cheap. And then people, if in this deflationary period that we're going to go into, people are going to do renos. And so if you can get into doing renos, you'll probably have lots of work. I mean, there's lots of work in general construction anyways. But that might not continue if there's all of a sudden millions of homes on the market for bottom basement prices. Why do you need to build new homes? So I think there could be an end to the boom we've had in construction, but I could be wrong. And then Sean, your last one says, random note, last week you were riffing on music during the live stream. Really appreciated the Rick Beato interview with Pat Metheny that you mentioned. Pat Metheny is a super cool dude. I occasionally follow Rick's channel. His content is top notch. Being that you're a music connoisseur, are you a Prince fan? If so, his performance with Tom Petty and oh yeah, I know. Oh yeah, his guitar solo in there is insane. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's probably the best guitar solo. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, Prince is a mammoth musician. Mammoth musician. Don't like all of his stuff, but you can tell that the guy was a next level music composer. He's a Beethoven for pop music. He's the kind of guy who hears everything. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna turn this light off. I had this LED work light that I use that the battery was dying and it was just flickering, so it was distracting. So I turned it off. But yeah, no, Prince is a genius musician, and he actually was very awake to the New World Order. And you can listen to a lot of Prince quotes back in the 90s where he was really starting to talk shit. And we all know how he ended up. And so it's a dark path for a lot of these guys. But no, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. I love riffing on music. It is funny though. It's sort of crickets. Like nobody really cares. There's a few of you care, and I appreciate that. But I put some stuff out on Twitter. Like I was geeking out with I was having a laugh with my kids last night, and I sometimes watch jazz performances with them, or just relevant good music. My daughter really likes bluegrass, and so sometimes we'll watch something on YouTube. We'll watch a performance of a group. And anyways, I was showing my kids Snarky Puppy, because I just geek out on these guys. And they have a track called Bet. It's the third track of the Empire Central record that they just released, and in my opinion, it is the greatest fusion song ever. It's a 15-piece band. Anyways, this track, the bass line is so interesting because it's really, really syncopated, but just so in the pocket, and just all these musicians are just top notch. And I was teaching my kids about slug face. Do you guys know what slug face is? It's sort of geeky inside joke for musicians, but slug face is when some the music is so, it's just so rock and roll, like it's so good that you watch this bass player Michael League from Snarky Puppy. He plays this super syncopated bass part, and I've actually thought about charting it out recently because I just find it so interesting. And this cat, he's having a good time in here. And slug face is when you're doing that, like you're so concentrated, and there's something about white guys. Black guys don't do it as much because you really notice with jazz has a real big crossover of black and white folks, and it's great. But there's something, I don't know what it is. Slug face is almost a white thing. It's kind of like, I don't know, I just don't notice black guys do it much. Like one of my favorite bassists of all time is Ron Carter, great Blue Note era jazz, upright bass player. And Ron Carter's just so cool. He's just walking, he's all over the place. But then you watch like Jack Pastoris, the legendary, I guess arguably the greatest, one of the greatest jazz bassists, at least of the fusion era of all time. And he's just like, making that face. It seems to be a white guy thing. I remember when I was gigging in Montreal, I was kind of on the jazz circuit. I started sitting in more and doing improv gigs and stuff. And I'd play with these black guys who are just absolute monsters on, played this jazz drummer guy, Jasson, this Caribbean dude. And he was just so good, but he just always looked cool. Like he was just, whereas white guys are just, they just do this thing. Anyways, I was teaching my kids about slug face last night and it was hilarious. And they thought it was really funny. But do you guys know what I'm talking about with slug face? Is this too geeky for some people? But you guys know what slug face is? This is slug face. This is a thing when you're really in the groove. And I don't know where the slug came from. I don't know what that is, but I guess it's like the face. I think that's the guitar player from Cheap Trick, actually. But anyways, it's like you're holding a slug, and it's disgusting and it's slimy, and you're going, ugh, but that's the face you make when you're just really, in the pocket. Manoj, hyper deflation, not hyperinflation. Yeah, totally. Oh, so the preparations for hyper deflation. Yeah, totally. I'm going to be cashing out metals and Bitcoin. That's my plan. Absolutely. Because when things get really cheap and I can deploy some capital, absolutely. Get out of here, kitty. MD Quintet. Bella Fleck Blue. Yes, absolutely. Bella Fleck Bluegrass. It exists. And isn't there that dude who has that weird percussion instrument in it? Get out of here, kitty. This cat is just going nuts. Hi, kitty. I love George Harrison. I love the Beatles too, actually. You ever gone down the Beatles, the Paul McCartney rabbit hole? That's a pretty good one. Oh, he's purring. Oh, he's a good kitty. Oh, is it John Mayer? Yeah. Maybe you're right. It doesn't matter. The whole idea of slug face is that guys make really funny faces when they're really in the groove. Borrow against your BTC. Some people do that. For black guy slug face, Wawa Watson and Herbie Hancock. Oh, totally Herbie Hancock slug face. So yes, I stand corrected. Black guys do slug face. Actually, even in that Snarky Puppy video that I was showing my kids last night, Larnell Lewis, he is an absolute monster jazz drummer. And he used to play more Snarky Puppy, but he's kind of got his own career. He's really strong. I actually like his album. He's got his own, I got a couple of his albums actually, where he writes the tracks. He's an insane drummer. He's like a Nate Smith level, in my opinion. Though I think I like Nate Smith a bit better. I like Nate Smith's albums. They're a bit more, they're a bit less, well, they're fusion, but they're just a little bit more, I don't know, funky. Whereas Larnell Lewis gets pretty outside. Some of these jazz guys who go, into we call it going outside. It's the bebop era where, you're playing outside of the diatonic scale and you're going into the, a lot of the dominant chords that have interesting harmonies. You're getting into that stuff, and sometimes it gets a little like Peter Brotzman. Like, I can't stand that kind of jazz. But yeah. Anyways, folks, I'm gonna leave it there. This was a 3-hour stream, so I hope you guys liked it. Smash the like if you did. I'll push our I'll offer you guys our Black Friday deal again. If you want to be a forever member of Freedom Farmers, have access to all the stuff we do, including the Homestead Accelerator, the community, all that stuff. That's our Black Friday offer that I'm throwing out to you now, and I'll offer it again next week. So I'll do the same stream. I'll do the same stream next Thursday as well. So Thursday, 6 p.m. Rick Beato does Slugface. Victor Wooten does Slugface. Total slug. So I'm wrong, actually. For some reason, I always felt that most Black musicians just didn't do it. Like Miles Davis didn't really do it because he was just so cool. And he played so few notes, but Herbie Hancock absolutely does Slugface. I love this shit. I could sit around and talk about jazz all night. I follow this woman on Twitter. I really, really like her. Her name's Nicole Sweeney, and shout out to her. But she's really cool. She just posts classic videos of jazz artists, and sometimes she shows new stuff. She shows young up and comers, and sometimes she'll show Wynton Marsalis and stuff. But I'm really enjoying her tweets because I just love jazz music, and so I'm just a geek when it comes to it, and so I'm following more people like that on Twitter. Actually, who's another cool Twitter follower I just started following that follows me apparently is this woman, what do I know, at Ears to Hear You. Man, this woman is sharing some serious gravy. If you've ever gone down the flat earth rabbit hole, and I'm not going to take you there, but if you've ever gone down it, it's pretty interesting. Because let's face it, everything's a lie. Everything that the mainstream wants you to know is a lie. And I'm not saying the world's flat. I don't know that. I can't prove that. But it is easy to point out. And this is the flat earth community folks, and not necessarily the technical flat earth community, because a lot of that's just a psyop, but a lot of the content, and this woman is one of them that I've been following lately, is showing like old Russian stuff that, the earth is kind of like a clock, and it's pretty far out, man. And it's pretty cool. Again, I don't put a ton of stock in it. I find it interesting, and I'm liberated from everything's a lie. See, I could care less anymore. Everything's a lie. And so I'm kind of liberated by that. And so, I don't get pissed off about any of this stuff anymore. I just go, yeah, it's a lie. But anyways, pretty interesting stuff. Hendrix, yeah, Hendrix did some Slugface. Who else? Oh yeah, Roger Waters, total Slugface. It's so good. My kids just were getting a hoot out of it every time Michael League came up in this video. But it's just the music is so good. It's just so good. My Twitter is at offgridstone. People asking about that. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. I'm cranking gravy on Twitter, man. I'm telling you, I really, really enjoy it. I really enjoy writing and just trying to find a different way to share that is inspiring for me. Because yeah, I've been doing videos for 10 years, and sometimes it's hard. It's hard making videos. I don't know how some of these guys like Justin Rhodes just do it nonstop. I just don't know how they do it. I just don't want to be in camera all the time. Sometimes I just want to work. Sometimes I just want to work. I don't making videos. I will tell you, over the years, when I was making videos on the farm, when my YouTube channel was really cranking, and probably when I was making the most amount of money from it, actually, I was making 5 videos a week. I was working on my farm full time, running the farm, and making 5 videos a week. I was seriously working 80 to 100 hours a week to do that, because when you make videos on the farm and you're actually trying to farm, the farming takes longer because you got to move cameras around and set up tripods and whatever. It's really difficult. It was easier than doing what I'm doing now, because what I'm doing now, I'm moving around so much. I'm jumping in the machine. I'm going over to doing this thing. I'm running this irrigation thing. It's really hard to make videos up here and get it done. And I honestly don't make enough money to just pay people to do everything. And I wouldn't want to do that anyways, because it's boring. I like doing the work. Like, I'm a working class guy. I like the work, but it's hard to make videos all the time. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I'm really enjoying writing, because I feel super creative in the morning, early in the morning. We get up so early, and especially in the winter, we get up at like 4. If I'm not out of bed by 5 a.m., my wife's bringing my coffee into me in bed. Here's your coffee, get up. So I get up, have that first cup, sitting around the table with my family, and I just feel super inspired. I just write. I just crank something out, and I feel like that is sort of a thing I can just get out and then get done and then go to work, And so I'm really enjoying Twitter for that. Water is level, end of story. Somebody says, yeah, water is amazing. And you want the truth, it's in the water, whether it's the foundation of your home or maybe the earth itself. The water thing is, the flat earth people are onto something, man. And again, I don't know. I can't prove the earth is flat. I don't want to make claims like that. But what I can say is it's easy to prove that it's not what they say. And that if you know 9/11 is a lie, COVID is a lie, how far do you want to go back? It's all a lie. Everything's a lie. And so that can piss you off, but it could also liberate you, And so that's how I look at it. So yeah, those are some my thoughts on Twitter and what Stanley Kubrick staged the moon landing. His daughter actually recently went on Alex Jones and said that he didn't. And she said, and the reason she said that I know he didn't, she said, because if he did, it would have looked way better. But the moon landing is obviously BS. Whether Stanley Kubrick did it or not, who cares? All you have to do is look at the shadows. Neil Armstrong is apparently the first guy on the moon, but then there's a guy outside in a camera. It's like, so no, he's not the first guy on the moon. It's all BS. And that is that shouldn't be a big deal. This says, is the Homestead Accelerator a lifetime? As in, will I do it for my entire life? I don't know. But what you get with that is, as long as we're running that, you're in it. So, take it for what it's worth. Will I do it for my lifetime? I don't know. But all the programs that are in there now, they can last for that long because they're just hosted on a site. But me running the Homestead Accelerator program for my entire life, no, I can't say that. That's why the Homestead Accelerator program on its own is expensive, because it involves me and a team every single week to do this. It takes more resources, right? to stay up to date with all the listings and everything too. It takes a lot of resources. We update all those listings every week. So when you go into our mapping software and you see all the properties that are listed, all of those are currently for sale. So we have to go and so as we make more every week, we have to go back further and make sure everything is still up to date. And if it isn't, then we take it down. So yeah, that's what I would say to that. So anyways, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Hope you guys enjoyed this stream. Follow me on Twitter at offgridstone. And yeah, again, I'm consulting again. So if you guys want to have me help you on a project this fall or winter, I'm for the first time since 2019 taking consulting clients again. So go to theurbanfarmer.co. That's my main old school website, but in there, just go under connect, and then there's a consulting thing in there. Just click on that page and then just message me through there, and happy to send you more information. But as somebody else asked in the chat tonight, it's not worth the money to pay me my private consulting rate to have me look at your properties. Have my team do it, and then I'll do it too, but it'll be way better value for your money than to just do a private session with me and have me look at properties. My team can help facilitate that better than I can, faster, and for more value for you, because that infrastructure is there. So yeah. But if you want me to help you with your homestead project or your farm or whatever, I'm stoked. I'm happy to help people. And so you can go there. All right, folks, this has been a slice. This has been a lot of fun. And I'm going to say goodbye now and then wait a bit, because sometimes when I say goodbye and then I hit end stream, it cuts off before the lag cuts off. So I'm going to say goodbye. Have a great night. Smash the like, share this if you enjoyed it, and join me next Thursday at the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, folks. See you in the next one. How lagged is this? No.